Chapter 958. In the Ruins of an Ancient Orthodoxy. Chu Kuangren brought Lan Yu and the others here. Looking at the ruins, Chu Kuangren used the spirit of omniscience, Xiao AI, to analyze it and obtained a lot of information. An ancient ruin from 129,600 years ago? Wow, that's quite a long history. Chu Kuangren took a deep breath and said, "This orthodoxy must have perished during the immortal ancient war. Since the immortal ancient war could be traced back to the previous era, it made sense for it to have such a long history. It's not easy for this orthodoxy to still have its ruins preserved after such a long time." Chu Kuangren looked at the ruins around him. Although there were broken walls everywhere and it was extremely run down, however, he could still see that the materials used in the surrounding buildings were extraordinary, and there were even quite a few immortal-grade materials. However, with the passage of time, most of them had lost their power, and the Taoist patterns on them were mostly broken. "Lan Yu, is this where you sensed it?" Chu Kuangren looked at Lan Yu and asked. The main reason they came here was because Lan Yu sensed that the mysterious summoning was coming from this place. "Yes, but I can't sense its exact location. Perhaps we'll only know when we get closer," Lan Yu said. "All right, there's no hurry. Let's explore this place for now. Let me see what treasures there are here." He used his mind power. His majestic mind power whizzed out and covered half of the ruins. Suddenly, Chu Kuangren noticed that there were a few broken seals not far away from him. Curious, he led the group over to them. The seal was located in a dilapidated pavilion. There were some scattered pages here. It seemed like this was a library that stored all kinds of books. Chu Kuangren looked around curiously and could not help but sigh when he saw the pages on the ground. What a shame. These books may have recorded some things from the immortal realm, but they've all been destroyed over the years. He could only collect some broken pages. At that moment, he saw a man in a green robe who was also collecting these pages with a look of pity on his face. Chu Kuangren glanced at him. The man looked back at him too. Their eyes met. Then he nodded slightly as a greeting. "Interesting. I didn't expect to meet someone who cherishes books as much as I do," Gu Lufang murmured. Chu Kuangren tidied up the book with a playful smile on his face. "King of the Immortal Seeds of the 100 Academies. From Xiao Ai's analysis, this person's strength is above that Hui Fa. He no longer cared about them." He looked at the pages in his hands and read out some of the information on them. East Emperor Immortal Court, Celestial Court of Haotian. Beside her, Gu Lufang also read out a name. The two of them turned around and looked at each other. "Fellow Taoist, why don't we borrow each other's books?" Gu Lufang said. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. "Sure." The two of them put the pages together and obtained some information about the complete immortal world from these pages. Among them, the two words Immortal Court appeared the most frequently, and in front of the Immortal Court, the two words Eastern Emperor and Haotian were often added. The East Emperor Immortal Court and the Celestial Court of Haotian are the two legendary immortal courts of the ancient immortal world, Gu Lufang said. It mentioned that the East Emperor Immortal Court and the Celestial Court of Haotian were the two legendary immortal courts of the ancient immortal world, Gu Lufang said. There's too little information to judge. There's too little information to judge. Gu Lufang shook his head and said. Then, he looked at Chu Kuangren and smiled. "I'm Gu Lufang of the 100 Academies. May I know your name?" "Chu Kuangren." "Chu Kuangren." Gu Lufang murmured before his eyes lit up. "Chu Kuangren, it's you. I've heard a lot about you." He had heard a lot about Chu Kuangren's name recently. The few of them conversed for a while. Unlike the other immortal seeds, Gu Lufang did not reject Chu Kuangren's identity as an outsider. He behaved naturally. Just as the two of them were conversing, a violent energy fluctuation suddenly came from afar as if someone was fighting. Chu Kuangren and the others went over to have a look. They saw two people fighting, and both of them were incredibly powerful. They were two celestial seed kings. The surrounding cultivators did not dare to get close and quickly retreated. "Oh, it's him." Chu Kuangren was slightly surprised to see one of them because that person was the young master of the Sword Burial Sea, the Saber King. The other person was an outsider. Moreover, his outsider's aura was very strong, not any weaker than Chu Kuangren's. It was obvious that he had entered the Azure Orchid immortal world around the same time as him. Oh, I didn't expect that apart from Brother Chu. There's also a Celestial Seed King here. Gu Lufeng was surprised. Not only him, but the other immortal seeds were also surprised. Celestial Seed Kings were rare. An outsider Celestial Seed King was even rarer. But recently, 2 Celestial Seed King level Sky Prides had appeared. Chu Kuangren chuckled and looked at the outsider Celestial Seed King. It was a young man with a long sword in his hand. When he swung the long sword, a terrifying sword ray covered the sky. It's a swordsman. No wonder the Saber King has his eyes on him. This person's technique. Chu Kuangren looked at the young man with a strange look in his eyes. He felt that the young man's immortal technique was familiar. It was an immortal technique that could affect one's mind. It was the illusory 7 emotions song. This was the first immortal technique that Chu Kuangren had mastered. It was also an immortal technique that was left behind in the firmament star by an immortal known as the Ancient Immortal. Chu Kuangren had met him before when he traveled through the River of Time. Is this person related to the Ancient Immortal? Chu Kuangren used Xiao AI to analyze the young man. His name was Gu Wuqing. His surname was Gu? A descendant of the Ancient Immortal? Boom! A loud explosion was heard. Gu Wuqing was forced back by the Saber King's attack and crashed onto the ground. He let out a sigh as his aura weakened. Although he was also a Celestial Seed King, he was no match for the Saber King. Haha! Although your sword technique is strange and can affect my mind, it's a shame that you're still no match for me. The Saber King laughed before a cold murderous intent shot out from his eyes. Outsider, you can only blame yourself for being a swordsman. Die! He raised his hand and gathered his Emperor's Chi before unleashing a powerful slash. A huge and domineering saber shadow slashed down from the sky. The surrounding cultivators watched the scene. Some felt sorry that a Celestial Seed King was about to fall, while others were gloating. No one wanted to stop it. After all, Gu Wuqing was just an outsider. Just when Gu Wuqing was about to be killed by the saber shadow, a figure suddenly appeared in front of him. It was a slender figure dressed in white, facing the domineering saber shadow that was slashing down. His expression remained calm. That person gently raised his hand and casually struck out. The Emperor's Chi circulated and a terrifying fist ray exploded like a tsunami, instantly shattering the saber shadow. The surrounding cultivators were dumbfounded by the scene. The Saber King's eyes narrowed. It's you. Chapter 959. It's you. The Saber King's pupils dilated when he saw who it was. This white-robed young man was none other than Chu Kuangren. The reason he attacked was because of the Ancient Immortal. He had learned one of the Ancient Immortal's immortal techniques, and they had a friendly sparring session. He could not sit back and watch as the Ancient Immortal's descendant was killed. This person is under my protection. Chu Kuangren waved his sleeves and said. The crowd was shocked. This person's strength is impressive. I can't believe he could easily block the Saber King's attack. It looks like he's also a Celestial Seed King. Indeed, he's also an outsider. Other than Gu Wuqing, there's only one other Celestial Seed King who has risen in fame recently. Could it be him? The crowd discussed as if they were waiting for a good show. The Saber King was also surprised by Chu Kuangren's appearance. I didn't expect Hui Fa to fail to kill you. Fine, I've been wanting to see your strength since a year ago. Since you're here to die, bring it on. The Saber King said coldly. The black long saber in his hand vibrated continuously as a powerful saber ray circulated within it. Its domineering aura shrouded the void. Everyone knew that the Saber King's attack would be earth-shattering. One move. Chu Kuangren raised a finger and said, You only have one chance. Make the most of it. You flatter me. The Saber King's eyes were cold. He leaped into the air and raised the long saber in his hand. A gigantic black saber shadow formed in the air. Tyrant Saber Technique. 8 Baron Dominator. The Saber King swung his saber, and the peerless saber shadow descended. The saber's power was enough to shatter a star. The entire void was shaking violently. Chu Kuangren stood still. His expression did not change in the slightest as he faced the peerless saber attack. He did not even unsheath the sword at his waist. As he focused his sword fingers, Taoist patterns and Emperor's Qi intertwined at his fingertips, forming a purple sword Qi. Then, multiple surges of origin energy were added to it. The sword slashed out as if it was going to tear the universe apart. The sword chi and the saber shadow collided. The entire ancient orthodoxy site was shocked. Then the sword chi crushed the saber shadow like a hot knife through butter and headed towards the Saber King. The Saber King could not help but be shocked. How is this possible? Being locked on by the sword aura, he had nowhere to run. The threat of death, which was far stronger than the one he had felt in the resentful Buddha enchantment, enveloped him instantly. His scalp went numb, and his entire body trembled. I will die. No! He roared and activated the power of the celestial bloodline in his body. He slashed out again, but even so, he was still sent flying. He smashed into a building and was buried in the dust. Only a weak aura was left. Oh my God! What kind of strength is this? He defeated the Saber Sovereign with one move. The Saber King activated the power of his immortal bloodline, yet he was still no match for this person. This kind of strength. A half-step immortal. Everyone couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Their faces filled with shock. Gu Wuqing's face was also filled with shock. He looked at Chu Kuangren beside him with a look of bewilderment in his eyes. Who was this person? Why did she save him? Just as he was pondering, Chu Kuangren, who had easily defeated the Saber King, turned around and looked at him. Chu Kuangren raised his hand to gather the spiritual chi of heaven and earth and cast the Spring Breeze healing technique, which even contained a surge of life origin energy. With the help of the life origin energy, the effect of the Spring Breeze healing technique was multiplied by many times. Soon, Gu Wuqing's injuries were healed. Why did you save me? Gu Wuqing asked curiously. Because of this. Chu Kuangren raised his hand and cast the immortal technique Ethereal 7 Emotions Song. Sensing the familiar fluctuations of the immortal technique, Gu Wuqing's eyes widened. This immortal technique? What's your relationship with my Gu family? Chu Kuangren chuckled. I'm familiar with the ancient immortal. This immortal technique was taught by him. Are you a descendant of the ancient immortal? The ancient immortal. He's my Gu family's forefather. Gu Wuqing nodded and said. Indeed, the ancient immortal. How have you been? Chu Kuangren asked. Upon hearing that, a hint of sadness appeared on Gu Wuqing's face. Forefather passed away a few years ago. Chu Kuangren was stunned. How could that be? It's not just the forefather. My Gu family has been annihilated too. Now the disciples of my Gu family are wandering in outer space. Gu Wuqing shook his head and said. He did not say anything else. It was as if he did not want to dwell on this topic any longer. Chu Kuangren did not pursue the matter either. That moment, the orthodoxy's ruins suddenly began to shake. A white pillar of light suddenly shot up into the sky from the depths of the orthodoxy. An incredibly mysterious Taoist fluctuation suddenly spread in all directions. Upon seeing that, everyone hurriedly rushed towards the direction of the pillar of light. That's... Lan Yu's expression changed. Looking at the pillar of light, her heart palpitated intensely. Something is calling out to me over there. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. Let's go and have a look. Everyone rushed towards the pillar of light. Within a huge crack in the ground was a white cocoon of light. The pillar of light that shot up into the sky was caused by the appearance of this cocoon. Within the cocoon of light, there was a beautiful woman with a pair of wings on her back. Countless cultivators rushed over and could not help but feel extremely shocked. How could this be? This ruin is from the previous era. How could someone still be here? How long has this woman been alive? No, this woman doesn't have any signs of life. She's already dead. This fluctuation is immortal consciousness. Oh my God, even after being dead for so many years, there's still some immortal consciousness left. Just how powerful was this person when she was alive? A powerhouse among the immortals. One of the strongest in the entire immortal realm. Everyone looked at the woman and began to discuss among themselves. Their eyes gradually burned with passion. This woman definitely had a great opportunity of fortune on her. Just this physical body alone that still had immortal consciousness was already an extremely rare treasure. It was even more valuable than an immortal weapon. A pair of wings on her back. Could she be a winged human from the immortal realm? I think so. Who cares about her? Let's take this physical body first. Everyone immediately rushed towards the winged human from the immortal realm. However, there was an invisible force field surrounding the winged human. Some of the immortal seeds were repelled before they could even get close. This immortal still has some residual energy. How is this possible? She's already been dead for an era, yet she still has some residual energy. Isn't this a little too crazy? What kind of existence was she when she was alive? Everyone could not help but gulp. Looking at the woman in the cocoon of light, their eyes were filled with respect. However, this also made them desire this body even more. Once they grasped the power within, they would definitely soar into the sky. Everyone worked together and break this force field. One of the immortal seeds said. Immediately, everyone made their move. However, no matter how much they used their power, they could not break it. At this moment, two rays of fiery light flew over. They were a young man and woman in luxurious red robes. Their bodies were filled with extremely powerful flames, and their might shook the entire place. Everyone's expression changed when they saw these two people. That's the Phoenix Son and Phoenix Daughter of Wutong Mountain. They actually appeared. The Phoenix Son and Phoenix Daughter were the kings of Wutong Mountain's immortal seeds. However, they were not included in the list of the 12 kings of immortal seeds. This was because they had never roamed the immortal realm before, and were not very famous. It was only when the immortal ancient battlefield opened that these two began to appear and display extremely terrifying combat strength. Chapter 960. The appearance of Mount Wutong's Phoenix and Phoenix Lady shocked everyone. Chu Kuangren could not help but stare at them. After all, it was his first time seeing other phoenixes other than Little Red. At the same time, he analyzed it with Xiao Ai. Phoenix Lady Feng Xiangyun and Phoenix Lady Huang Yinghong. These are divine beasts. It's my first time seeing one. Tsk. Their aura is indeed extraordinary. The crowd discussed among themselves. Beside Chu Kuangren, Qing Feng was surprised to see Feng Xiangyun and Huang Yinghong. It's them. Oh, you know them. Yes, but not too well, Qing Feng said. She was also from Mount Wutong, so she had met the Phoenix and Phoenix Lady before. Chu Kuangren nodded and ignored her. That moment, Feng Xiangyun and Feng Xiangyun were already preparing to break through the immortal force field. However, even with their celestial seed ruler's strength, they still could not get close to the light cocoon. Even a celestial seed ruler can't do anything about it. Looks like there's nothing we can do. Only an immortal can do it. It can't be. The opportunity of fortune is right in front of us, but we can only watch. Isn't this too hard to bear? The crowd said in dismay. At that moment, Lan Yu, who was beside Chu Kuangren, looked at the white light cocoon and suddenly said, Master, I'd like to try. Chu Kuangren pondered for a while. Are you confident? I feel like this person is summoning me. She gives me a very familiar feeling, Lan Yu said. All right then. Follow your heart. Chu Kuangren nodded. He also got the sword crown ready. If there were any changes, it would immediately break this immortal force field. Perhaps the winged lady's strength was far above the sword crown's when she was alive, but she had died for an era after all. Her remaining strength could not stop the sword crown. Lan Yu walked towards the light cocoon. A great Taoist master? Even a celestial seed ruler can't do anything. What can a mere great Taoist master do? I'm afraid he'll be repelled before he even gets close. The crowd sneered. But what happened next left them dumbfounded. Lan Yu stepped into the invisible force field and was not repelled at all. She could move freely in the force field. What's going on? How did she do it? Everyone looked on in disbelief. Even Phoenix and Phoenix could not help but narrow their eyes as they stared at Lan Yu. Following that, Lan Yu passed through the force field and arrived in front of the cocoon of light. She looked at the cocoon of light and raised her hand to press on it. At once, the light cocoon shone brightly and enveloped Lan Yu. Xiao Ai analyzed Lan Yu's condition. Is there any danger? Chu Kuangren said. Analyzing. Lan Yu is currently accepting the inheritance. There is no danger. Don't worry, master, Xiao Ai said. That's good. Chu Kuangren heaved a sigh of relief. However, the sudden abnormality caused the crowd to burst into an uproar. Everyone stared at the cocoon of light, trying to guess what had happened. After a while, The cocoon of light slowly dissipated into countless specks of light. A figure appeared. It was Lan Yu. At this moment, her entire body was enveloped in a white radiance. Countless mysterious Tao patterns interweaved, making her look incomparably holy. What's going on? What about the immortal body? Her aura has changed greatly. Could it be that this was done by that immortal? Could this opportunity have been stolen by this outsider? D***it. The crowd looked at Lan Yu with jealousy and hatred. Some of them had already taken out their weapons. Since they could not directly obtain the opportunity of fortune from the immortal, they could only target Lan Yu. The immortal has disappeared. Yet this outsider's aura has changed so much. She must have obtained an opportunity of fortune. Humph, how can an outsider like her deserve such an opportunity of fortune? I will not allow this. That's right. Let her hand over the opportunity of fortune. As the winged human lady's body disappeared, the invisible force field also dissipated. Many people immediately stared at Lan Yu. However, some cultivators had already made their moves. A figure flew towards Lan Yu and reached out his hand to grab her. How dare you? A cold snort was heard. An extremely violent energy erupted and the cultivator, who attacked, was instantly blasted into a cloud of blood mist. Chu Kuangren slowly walked to Lan Yu's side. His slender and straight body was like an impenetrable and indestructible wall. With me here, who dares touch her? Chu Kuangren's cold voice swept across the crowd. Some cultivators' expressions changed as they looked at Chu Kuangren with fear. The scene of Chu Kuangren defeating the Saber King with a single move was still fresh in their minds. Not many dared to provoke him. However, there were exceptions. Feng Zi from Wutong Mountain was one of them. He could not miss out on an opportunity of fortune from the previous era. Even if it was Chu Kuangren who stood in front of him, he would still fight for it. Let me have a taste of the strength of a human sage ruler, Feng Shangyun said. He took a step forward as the flames on his body burned brightly. It then turned into a majestic wave of fire that swept out. That's the phoenix flames. The crowd exclaimed and could not help but retreat a distance away. On the other hand, Chu Kuangren, who was the target of the phoenix flames, stood still on the spot, allowing the phoenix flames to engulf him. Just as the phoenix flames landed on his body, a golden red flame flashed, and the phoenix flames on his body erupted in an even more violent and powerful manner. The phoenix flames collided with the phoenix flames. The surrounding void was almost distorted. Feng Shangyun's expression changed because his phoenix flames were suppressed by his opponent. He could not help but retreat a few meters. Phoenix flames. So you're the outsider who can use the phoenix flames, and your phoenix flames are even stronger than mine. Feng Shangyun's eyes were filled with shock. It was already unbelievable for a human to be able to use the phoenix flames. And it was even stronger than his phoenix flames. What was this? Only a phoenix with the purest bloodline can use the phoenix flames like that. Is this guy a human or a godly phoenix? Huang Yinghong was also in disbelief. Phoenix lady, let's attack together, Feng Shangyun said coldly. A human who can control the phoenix flames must not be allowed to live. All right. Huang Yinghong's expression was solemn as well. Stop. At that moment, Qing Feng appeared and stopped both of them. He said, "This person is my friend, Feng Shangyun. Don't be rude to him." The two phoenixes were stunned when they saw Qing Feng. You're the young clan leader, Huang Yinghong said in shock. Young clan leader? Why is that useless young clan leader who has been missing for years here? Feng Shangyun said directly. Qing Feng's expression darkened when he heard that. How dare you? Phoenix lady, don't be rude. Huang Yinghong frowned and said. She then looked at Qing Feng and quickly walked up to him, bowing slightly. Greetings, young clan leader. Not far away, Chu Kuangren smiled playfully. I knew you were no ordinary person. So you're the young clan leader of Mount Wutong. I'm sorry, I've hidden something from you. Qing Feng smiled apologetically. It's fine. Chu Kuangren did not take it to heart. Young clan leader, your bloodline. Huang Yinghong noticed Qing Feng's strange behavior and became curious. We'll talk about this later. Master Chu is my friend, I won't allow you to harm him, Qing Feng said to both of them. Chapter 961. This. Huang Yinghong was a little hesitant. Feng Shangyun said coldly. A human wielding the phoenix fire is unprecedented. We can't let him live, and we can't miss the opportunity of fortune on that lady either. Are you going to ignore my order? Qing Feng said coldly. You're just a useless young clan leader who isn't favored by the clan. Do you think you have the right to order me around? Feng Shangyun said coldly. Enough, young Feng. Don't cross the line. Huang Yinghong stopped him. Beside them, Chu Kuangren was deep in thought when he saw that. It seemed like Qing Feng's situation at Wutong Mountain was not that good. I won't give up. Feng Shangyun leaped into the air with flames burning around him, turning the void into a sea of fire. Huang Yinghong hesitated for a while but did not attack. Chu Kuangren, on the other hand, stood in front of Lan Yu and said indifferently, Who else wants this opportunity of fortune? Come at me together. He waved his sleeves and a majestic emperor's qi spread. The ground and the void trembled. Haha, Chu Kuangren, I've been waiting to meet you. A figure covered in flames of various colors flew towards them from afar, and the aura of a celestial seed ruler instantly swept across the area. That person was dressed in a red robe and had a majestic physique. He controlled all kinds of flames like a flame deity. It's him, the first god's disciple of the divine flame Ming cult, Huashan Huang. The crowd exclaimed. Chu Kuangren, you've killed the ancient Sparrow City Lord and Heaven Luo City Lord of my sage capital. I'll make you pay for this. A cold voice was heard. A man in silver armor with a dark red spear in his hand walked towards them with his head held high. His majestic ferocious qi swept across the area. Sage Capital's Spear Crown's personal disciple, Wu Wuji. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Rays of light flew towards them. It was the Divine Flame Ming cult's disciples and Sage Capital's enforcers. They had completely surrounded the area. The crowd could not help but be shocked. CKME, what a lineup! The Divine Flame Ming cult's disciples and First God's disciple are here. Not to mention the Spear Crown's personal disciple, and the Sage Capital's enforcers. Who among the younger generation can withstand these two forces? Even if it's an immortal seed king, only death awaits it. Chu Kuangren remained calm in the face of such a lineup. He looked into the void not far away. They've already come out. Are you still going to hide it? Jinshan Temple's Huifa. Ripples appeared in the void. A white-robed monk then walked out of the void and looked at Chu Kuangren with a smile. Brother Chu, your senses are indeed extraordinary. I can smell the foul vengeful qi stench on your body from afar. Chu Kuangren pouted and said. Huifei's eyes turned cold. Humph, Chu Kuangren. Now that the Divine Flame, the Sage City, and the Golden Hill Temple have surrounded you, you will definitely die today. A divine son of the Divine Flame Ming cult said coldly. There's no need to talk to him. Kill him. Then capture that silver-haired woman and force her to reveal the secret of the fortuitous encounter. One of the sacred city's law enforcers couldn't hold it in any longer and directly attacked. With a flash of his figure, he instantly disappeared from where he was like a specter. When he reappeared in front of Chu Kuangren, he immediately unleashed his pseudo-immortal power. Chu Kuangren immediately raised his hand and grabbed. In the next instant, his jade-white palm shattered the pseudo-immortal power and directly grabbed onto the sacred city law enforcer's neck. The golden-red phoenix fire whizzed out and the sacred city law enforcer screamed as he was burned into a piece of charcoal. Chu Kuangren casually tossed him aside. Then his emperor's qi erupted like a raging wave and rushed in all directions. Several surges of origin energy flew out and surrounded his body, causing the surrounding void to tremble. A three-way encirclement? Kill me? Do you think you're qualified to do so? Chu Kuangren said coldly. He focused his sword fingers and suddenly, purple lotuses bloomed in the void. The petals of the lotuses danced in the air, and they were surges of razor-sharp sword qi. The sword qi intertwined and enveloped everyone at the scene. Some of the weaker cultivators were instantly torn apart by the sword qi and turned into a mist of blood. Is this the Thousand Lotus Sword intent? D***, hurry up and kill him. Two Divine Flame Ming cult's divine sons instantly attacked. The flames that filled the sky converged and turned into two giant fireballs that smashed towards Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren raised his hand and the phoenix fire gushed out, fighting fire with fire. The two divine sons were instantly burned to a crisp. Some Sacred City enforcers saw how powerful Chu Kuangren was, and did not want to fight him head-on. Instead, they turned to attack Lan Yu, who was behind him. "You're asking for it." A cold glint flashed across Chu Kuangren's eyes. He took a step forward and instantly appeared beside Lan Yu. He unleashed his sword fingers and the sword chi instantly shredded that enforcer into pieces. With a single thought, the heavens and earth shall perish. Chu Kuangren activated his immortal technique, and his emperor's chi circulated around his body. Purplish-red light waves continuously spread out with him and Lan Yu at the center. Any cultivator that was hit by the light waves exploded on the spot. All of a sudden, not only the divine sons, but even the enforcers were not spared. Chu Kuangren's peerless combat strength left everyone speechless. His combat strength was terrifying beyond compare. He's definitely on the path to immortal ascension. Not only that, even some half-immortals are not as terrifying as him. Everyone was amazed. Hui Fa Huashanhuang and Wu Wuji looked solemn. They knew that Chu Kuangren was strong, but they did not expect him to be this strong. Compared to a year ago, he's much stronger now, Hui Fa said with a serious look. His body doesn't show any signs of being cleansed by the lightning tribulation, but why is his emperor's chi and origin energy so strong? This is too strange. Huashanhuang was confused. No matter what, this person must have a huge secret on him. If we kill him, we'll definitely gain a lot. Wu Wuji said with his eyes lit up. Fengzi, are you willing to join us in fighting this person? Hui Fa looked at Feng Shangyun. Feng Shangyun nodded. That's what I was thinking. Let's go. Huashanhuang was the first to attack. All the divine fires on his body erupted at the same time. It's the Crimson Divine Flame, Netherworld Flame, Oceanic Crystal Flame, and the Bone Spiritual Flame. He's indeed the #1 divine son of the Divine Flame sect. He's so powerful to have mastered so many divine fires. A cultivator who was knowledgeable about divine fires exclaimed. While he was speaking, the divine fires had already reached Chu Kuangren. However, they were blocked by an invisible barrier that kept them 3 meters away from Chu Kuangren. In the void, a purple lotus bloomed. The Thousand Lotus Sword in tint. Oh, he's only defending and not attacking. Is he protecting the lady behind him? Huashanhuang said. This is a good opportunity. Hui Fa's eyes lit up. Great Brahma palm. The Buddhist light around his body bloomed and turned into a golden palm. Flaming Phoenix wind-piercing strike. Feng Shangyun had also gathered his phoenix fire and transformed it into a razor-sharp sword shadow that pierced through the air. Together with the palm attack, it collided with Chu Kuangren's sword chi barrier, causing the ground around Chu Kuangren to explode and cave in. Humph, what a fool. Wu Wuji sneered. He gripped the spear in his hand tightly and thrust it forward. A blood-colored spear ray landed on the sword chi barrier. Several surges of energy attacked at the same time, and finally disintegrated the purple lotus. A powerful explosion of energy swept in all directions. That moment, behind Chu Kuangren, Lan Yu suddenly opened her eyes and a terrifying aura spread out with her as the center. She was no weaker than a celestial seed king. She had already accepted the inheritance. Master, let me help you, Lan Yu said and was about to step forward to help Chu Kuangren. There's no need for you to do anything. Go to the sword crown first, Chu Kuangren said. Lan Yu hesitated for a moment before she nodded. Humph, Chu Kuangren, you're still trying to show off at a time like this. Do you think you're capable of fighting 4 people at once? Huashanhuang sneered. You're wrong. Chu Kuangren shook his head. Then, an even more terrifying emperor's chi spread out with him as the center. It's not 1 against 4, it's 4 against 1. Are you ready? Chu Kuangren waved his sleeves and surges of origin energy seeped out of his body and surrounded him. Like a supreme immortal king, his aura shook the heavens and the earth. Chapter 962. 1 against 4? No, 4 against 1. The 4 celestial seed kings were going all out against Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren stood where he was as the origin energy circulated around him. His celestial aura shone brightly as his domineering aura shook the surrounding void. He stared coldly at the 4 people before him. Come! Everyone could not help but gulp as they sensed the terrifying aura emanating from Chu Kuangren's body. What a terrifying aura! Everyone, let's not hold back anymore. Let's give it our all, Wuxia said with a serious look. He let out a long roar as the Buddhist light on his body was dyed a layer of crimson red, and a terrifying resentment chi started to circulate around him. The Golden Hill Temple's little sage monk knows such an evil technique? Could this be a technique from the demonic Buddha sect? Everyone's pupils constricted when they saw this. Fire Shanhuang too had a serious look on his face as the divine flames around him began to circulate. There were a total of 4 types of divine flames, and they were all famous flames on the divine flame leaderboard. As the flames intertwined, they began to fuse. An even more violent flame origin domineering aura gushed out. Fight! Wuxia snorted as the blood drinker spear in his hand unleashed a terrifying ferocious chi. With a thrust of his spear, a domineering blood-colored spear ray that was filled with destructive chi shot towards Chu Kuangren. That's not enough. Chu Kuangren's descendant self-sword was unsheathed with a clang. He then unleashed a slash. A purple lotus bloomed in the void. The sword chi was like a torrent that shattered the blood-colored spear ray. Wuxia's eyes narrowed as he was blasted away by the attack. Flaming Dragon's luminous sun. Fire Shanhuang raised his hand and gathered the surrounding flames. The divine flames roared as the Emperor's chi and Taoist patterns intertwined to form a ferocious fire dragon. Flaming Phoenix wind-piercing strike. Feng Zi and Feng Shangyun attacked as well. A large amount of phoenix flames formed into a fiery red sword shadow that pierced out. Playing with fire? You think you're my match? Chu Kuangren sneered as he raised his hand to summon the phoenix flames that were much stronger than Feng Shangyun's. As the flames collided, the 2 celestial seed kings were blasted away. Great Brahma Palm. Wuxia activated the power of the Grudge Buddha on his body. Blood-colored Buddha light condensed into a blood-colored palm print that rose from the sky. The aura of grievance surged and swallowed the heaven and earth. Chu Kuangren slashed out with his sword and instantly broke the giant palm. Swoosh! Chu Kuangren's figure disappeared on the spot. When he reappeared, he was already in front of Feng Shangyun. With an indifferent expression, he raised his hand, and a large amount of phoenix fire swirled in his palm. Not good. Feng Shangyun's expression changed drastically as he circulated his power to the limit. The phoenix flames howled in an attempt to resist Chu Kuangren. However, his strength was far too weak compared to Chu Kuangren's. With just one move, he was blasted by the phoenix flames and suffered the agony of being burned. Feng Shangyun fell onto the ground. A mighty divine beast of fire was screaming in pain from being burnt by the flames. How ironic. Chu Kuangren shifted his gaze to Wuxia who was beside him. He then turned the descendant self-sword in his hand and unleashed the Thousand Lotus Sword intent, unleashing a purple sword ray. Aside from the origin of sword, the attack was also imbued with many other types of origin energy, making it extremely powerful. Blood Drinker Spear Army Breaker. Wuxia's pupils constricted slightly. Then, he activated his immortal art. The origin energy was infused into the long spear, and when it was unleashed, the blood-colored spear ray pierced through the air and collided violently with the sword ray. However, due to the difference in their strengths, the sword chi was unstoppable. Wuxia let out a scream and was sent flying. If not for the armor on his body, that attack would have killed him on the spot. How is this possible? Seeing that Chu Kuangren had defeated 2 celestial seed kings in a row, Shanhuang's expression changed drastically. He felt like his head was about to explode. Chu Kuangren's combat strength was much more terrifying than he had imagined. Is this all you've got? Chu Kuangren said indifferently. He looked at Shanhuang with a cold murderous intent in his eyes. He had not forgotten how the divine flame Ming cult almost killed Lan Yu. D***, Chu Kuangren. I don't believe you're invincible. Shanhuang suppressed the fear in his heart. He roared and channeled his divine flames to the limit. 4 types of divine flames circled around his body, and then merged with each other. The divine flame fusion technique. The 4 types of divine flames on Shanhuang's body merged into a colorful fireball. The black netherworld flame, the white bone spirit flame, the red crimson divine flame, and the blue heavenly crystal flame shone brilliantly. Smite was even more terrifying. Just by looking at it from afar, everyone could feel their scalps tingling. Chu Kuangren looked at it with a hint of playfulness in his eyes. He said, For types of divine flames, you're a pretty good resource. If his phoenix fire could devour the 4 types of divine flames, his phoenix fire's power would rise to another level and become even more powerful. If you want to devour me, you'll have to take this move of mine first. Hua Shenhuang saw through Chu Kuangren's thoughts and was furious. Then, the aura on his body skyrocketed and the flame origin energy merged into his divine flame. Divine flame, exploding heaven strike. The colorful fireball carried a terrifying power that could burn everything in its path towards Chu Kuangren. Its power almost caused the void to distort. What's so hard about taking this move of yours? Chu Kuangren stood still and let the fireball hit him. Accompanied by a loud explosion, the terrifying colorful flames swept across like a raging wave and spread in all directions, turning the surroundings into a sea of fire. Wherever it passed, everything was turned into ashes and the ground was melted. Everyone stared at the sea of fire without blinking. Did it work? Did he kill Chu Kuangren with this move? He didn't even try to block such a terrifying power. Instead, he took it head-on. I'm afraid he'll be severely injured even if he doesn't die. This person is too arrogant. Everyone stared at the sea of fire and discussed among themselves. Right when everyone was surprised and bewildered, a strand of powerful emperor energy rose from the ground and swept out. The flames in the surroundings were swept away by the emperor energy, and then a peerless figure that looked down upon the world and the world was revealed. Chu Kuangren's white robe was spotless. Purple lotuses bloomed around him, and as his sword chi circulated, the surrounding divine flames could not hurt him at all. Now it's my turn. Chu Kuangren raised his hand and pointed at Hua Shenhuang. He said proudly, I can kill you with one sword. As soon as he said that, the purple lotuses around him dispersed and turned into pure sword chi that was injected into the descendant self-sword in Chu Kuangren's hand. The overbearing sword pressure tore the surrounding air apart, and even the spectators who were watching from afar could feel the pain. Chu Kuangren waved his arm, and the purple sword chi wrapped in blooming purple lotuses slashed towards Hua Shenhuang with an unstoppable force. Hua Shenhuang tried his best to block it, but his flames were easily torn apart the moment they came into contact with the sword chi. In the next instant, the sword chi landed on his body. Divine Flame Clone. At that crucial moment, Hua Shenhuang used his clone technique and split his body into 2. The Divine Flame Clone stayed behind to withstand the impact of the sword chi, while his real body quickly retreated, trying to escape from the sword chi's range. However, when the sword chi landed on the Divine Flame Clone, it suddenly exploded. Pieces of purple petals swept in all directions, and each petal was wrapped in a sharp and dense sword chi. The Divine Flame Clone was the first to be torn apart, and Hua Shenhuang's real body was not spared either. He was enveloped by the spreading sword chi, and before he could react, thousands of sword chi pierced through his body, turning him into a mist of blood. I've said it before. I'll kill you with one sword, and that's it. Chapter 963. The purple sword light exploded, and the flower petals and sword chi swept out in all directions. Fire Shenhuang died on the spot. Hui Fa, who was slightly further away, and Wu Wuji weren't any better off. They were affected by the sword chi and were forced to retreat in a sorry state. After Hua Shenhuang's death, only his interspatial ring and 4 different colored divine fire seeds were left in the void. Chu Kuangren smirked when he saw that. He walked up to them, raised his hand, and used his phoenix flames to envelop the 4 fire seeds before absorbing them into his body. At this moment, at the side, a powerful energy fluctuation erupted. Feng Shangyun, who was almost burnt to a crisp by the phoenix flames, suddenly unleashed his phoenix flames and engulfed the phoenix flames that belonged to Chu Kuangren. The injuries on his body were also recovering at an extremely fast speed. Oh, this is Nirvana! Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up. The reason why the phoenix fire was ranked 3rd on the divine fire list, apart from its ability to devour all flames, was its ability to undergo nirvana. Moreover, after the phoenix underwent nirvana, its strength would be greatly enhanced. Chu Kuangren had experienced nirvana once before. Chu Kuangren, I bet you didn't expect this, did you? I'm a phoenix, and I can borrow the power of your phoenix flames to be reborn. I'm even stronger now. Feng Shangyun looked at Chu Kuangren and laughed out loud. The phoenix flames on his body circulated, and the fiery light shone on his handsome face. He stared at Chu Kuangren with a burning murderous intent in his eyes. Kill! He turned into a ray of fiery light and flew towards Chu Kuangren. Every single move he made had unleashed a combat strength that surpassed that of an ordinary false immortal. Hui Fei and Wu Wuji's eyes lit up. 3 against 1, we still have a chance. We might not necessarily lose. The two of them looked at each other and revealed a determined expression. Obviously, they were going to use their trump card. Wu Wuji took out a golden red pill and consumed it. The monarch chi in his body instantly rose by a large margin, and his comprehension of the ferocious chi source also improved significantly. The other side. Hui Fei put his palms together. The blood-colored Buddha light that was mixed with resentment intertwined with Tao patterns. A ferocious-looking Buddha of resentment appeared out of thin air. It was the evil Buddha sex resentment Buddha avatar. And that was not all. 2 blood-colored flowing lights flew out from Hui Fei's body. They were 2 Buddha statues of the resentful Buddha. The Buddha statue and the Dharma form merged into one. The Dharma form, which originally had 1 head and 2 arms, suddenly became 2 heads and 4 arms, which was even more terrifying. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up. Very good. You've really collected the remaining 2 resentful Buddha statues for me. Kill. Hui Fei said coldly with an evil look on his face. The image of a little holy monk was long gone. The 3 rulers of the celestial seeds charged towards Chu Kuangren in an even more powerful manner. However, Chu Kuangren swung his longsword with ease. 1 man and 1 sword made the 3 kings of the immortal seeds feel like they didn't know where to start. They couldn't see any hope of victory. Were they surrounding Chu Kuangren to kill him? No. They felt that Chu Kuangren was trying to kill them. It's time to end this boring battle, Chu Kuangren said coldly, and all 13 surges of origin energy erupted from his body. This scene completely shocked everyone present. Some of them had never seen so much origin energy in their entire lives, let alone all of it gathered in one person's body. Monster! What exactly is his Tao? Why does he have so much origin energy? This guy is too scary. Everyone was dumbfounded. They had never seen anything like this before. A cultivator only had 1 Tao. Therefore, he only had 1 true origin energy. There were also some cultivators who could cultivate other origins to increase their combat strength. However, a person with 13 origin energies. No matter how they thought about it, it was unbelievable. With 13 origin energies surrounding his body, Chu Kuangren's every move had an earth-shattering power. The 3 rulers of the celestial seeds felt an unprecedented pressure, even though they were half immortals. To have such terrifying combat strength without going through the 3 disasters and 9 tribulations, Master is truly an anomaly in this world. Jian Guan murmured in the crowd. Then he looked into the distance. This battle has caused quite a commotion. I guess those old guys are starting to get restless. His eyes lit up. If that was the case, he could not just sit around. D***it. I've underestimated him. I can't believe this person's combat strength is so powerful. Hui Fei and the other 2 could not help but be shocked. Even though they had used all their trump cards, they still felt helpless against Chu Kuangren, who had unleashed all 13 origin energies. Even with 4 of you fighting against 1, you're still no match for him, Chu Kuangren said calmly. He raised the long sword in his hand and countless purple lotuses bloomed in the void. Dense sword chi enveloped the entire area. The 3 rulers of the celestial seeds had nowhere to run. Die! Chu Kuangren yelled. Countless sword chi instantly shuttled back and forth in the void. Although the vengeful Buddha avatar was a fusion of 2 vengeful Buddha statues, it was still shattered by the countless sword chi attacks. On the other side, Wu Wuji waved his spear to block the sword chi. However, Chu Kuangren's 1,000 lotus sword intent was endless. No matter how hard he tried to block, the sword chi and sword chi never stopped. In just 2 breaths' time, Wu Wuji's body was already covered with dozens of wounds. Although Feng Shangyun's nirvana rebirth had greatly increased his strength, even so, he was still no match for Chu Kuangren's powerful sword techniques. Stop! Just when the 3 rulers of the celestial seeds were in danger, a furious voice came from afar. A majestic immortal's domineering aura enveloped the entire area. The immortal had made his move. Everyone gasped as they stared at Chu Kuangren. From their point of view, Chu Kuangren should have a limit no matter how arrogant he was when an immortal had made his move. It's our Sage City's Grand Elder. And our Golden Hill Temple's Sage Monk. Wu Wuji and Hui Fa were delighted. However, they soon realized that even after the immortal had made his move, Chu Kuangren was still relentless and did not stop his attacks. On the other hand, their momentary distraction had caused them to be severely injured. Everyone was shocked. Chu Kuangren dared to ignore the immortals. Far away, 3 rays of light rushed out from the depths of the celestial ancient battlefield and headed towards the ancient orthodoxy ruins. They wanted to stop or even kill Chu Kuangren. All 3 rays of light were immortals. They were immortals from the Divine Flame Sect, Golden Hill Temple and Sage City. They were enraged. Every celestial seed magnate was a sky pride that was carefully nurtured by their respective orthodoxies, let alone a ruler of the celestial seeds. And Chu Kuangren was about to kill their ruler of the celestial seeds. He was going to ruin their future as immortals. How could they tolerate that? We must kill this outsider. If I don't kill this person, I won't be able to quell the hatred in my heart. That moment, a green-robed figure suddenly appeared in front of them. It was an old man with white hair on both sides of his temples. He looked ordinary. However, the 3 immortals stopped in their tracks at the same time. They looked at the green-robed old man with their eyes narrowed in shock. You're Jianguan. Why are you here? Jianguan was one of the 7 crowns of the Green Orchid Immortal Realm. He was also the top sword immortal of this immortal realm in the past. It doesn't matter why I'm here. What's important is that you can't continue on this path, Jianguan said. You want to protect Chu Kuangren? The Divine Flame Sect's immortal said coldly. Yes. Chapter 964. Yes. That one word was accompanied by a towering sword intent that swept across the sky. Green lotuses blossomed with sword crown at the center. In the blink of an eye, 1,000-kilometer radius had turned into a sea of flowers. The 3 immortals' expressions changed when they saw that. Is this the power of Sword Crown, one of the 7 crowns? That's impossible. I heard that Sword Crown was already crippled by Sword Crown. How can he still have such powerful strength? What the hell is going on? The 3 immortals looked at each other in confusion. Among them, the Divine Flame Church's immortal had a strange look in his eyes. Then a flame burned in his palm. Let me test him first. Immortal core surged as he struck out with his palm. An extremely domineering flaming palm was unleashed. Sword Crown stood still with a calm expression. Before the immortal sword was unleashed, sword chi automatically gathered at the tip of his finger. With a wave of his hand, a huge sword chi stirred the sea of flowers and slashed out. The sword chi broke through the flaming palm and headed towards the immortal. It was just one move, but the Divine Flame Church's immortal could not help but narrow his eyes. His face was filled with unprecedented fear. He roared and channeled all his strength to block that move, but it was useless. With a loud ripping sound, the Divine Flame Church's immortal's arm was forcefully cut off. His immortal blood splattered all over the ground. The ground was burned into a sea of fire by the boiling blood. He cut off my arm with one move. His strength has really recovered. Sword Crown is a 9th grade common immortal. We're only 3 lower grades. We're no match for him. Retreat. The Sage City's immortal said coldly. In the ancient Taoist orthodoxy ruins, Wu Wuji Hui Fa and the others could not help but feel shocked when they sensed the immortals retreating. They looked at Chu Kuangren in disbelief. The immortals retreated. Chu Kuangren has a powerful background. Isn't he an outsider? How can he be so powerful that even the immortals retreated? My God, this person's background is not ordinary. The crowd discussed among themselves. Hui Fa and Wu Wuji, on the other hand, fell into despair. Even the immortals retreated. Who else could save them? The sword chi shuttled back and forth in the void. The Grudge Buddha Dharma form shattered into pieces, and the 2 Grudge Buddhas fell to the ground. Hui Fa was minced into a bloody mist by the sword chi. Wu Wuji wouldn't be able to escape either. Chu Kuangren, you can't kill me. I'm from the Wutong Mountain, and the Wutong Mountain is a clan of divine beasts. You can't even begin to imagine how powerful we are. If you dare to kill me, you'll be making an enemy out of our Wutong Mountain. Feng Shangyan quickly said. I can kill the divine fire Ming cult's immortal seed, the holy city's immortal seed, and the Golden Mountain Temple's immortal seed. Do you think that I will care about Wutong Mountain? Chu Kuangren's expression was cold. The purple lotus sword flashed through the void, killing Feng Shangyun on the spot. Now, can your phoenix fire still save you? Chu Kuangren sneered. The crowd looked at Chu Kuangren in horror. The 4 major celestial seed kings had joined forces, but they were all defeated by Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren's combat strength was beyond their imagination. According to the immortal ascension path of 3 disasters and 9 tribulations, Chu Kuangren should be a 7th tribulation or even an 8th tribulation cultivator. But why aren't there any signs of lightning tribulation on his body? I can't figure it out. The spectators were discussing. After this battle, Chu Kuangren's name would spread throughout the entire Green Orchid Immortal realm. He had single-handedly killed 4 celestial kings. No other celestial seed had ever achieved such a feat, not to mention a foreign celestial seed. Chu Kuangren retracted the origin energy within his body and kept the 2 grudge Buddhas and the other items away. Then he returned to Lan Yu and the others. However, Huang Yinghong, who was beside Qing Feng, looked at him cautiously. After all, he had just killed a phoenix child. Chu Kuangren did not mind. If Huang Yinghong dared to attack him, he would not mind killing him as well. After all, it was not a difficult thing to do. Not long after, Jianguan had returned too. Is it done? Chu Kuangren asked casually. It's done. Jianguan nodded slightly. Done. Forget it, you've just recovered from your injuries. It's not easy for you to defeat them. I don't expect you to bring back a few immortal corpses anyway. Chu Kuangren said calmly. Jianguan's mouth twitched when he heard that. Immortal corpses? Were immortals that easy to kill? I'll try next time, Jianguan said. Chu Kuangren said no more. Immortals? Compared to letting Jianguan kill one, he would rather kill one himself. However, Chu Kuangren knew very well that it was not realistic for him to kill an immortal with his current strength. Perhaps it would be possible if he gained more insights into the origin energy. There's nothing left to search in this ancient orthodoxy's ruins. Let's leave, Chu Kuangren said. Master. At that moment, Qing Feng hesitantly said to Chu Kuangren, I'd like to return to Wutong Mountain with Yinghong first. Chu Kuangren was not surprised to hear that. Sure. Then we'll meet again if fate allows it. Qing Feng looked at Chu Kuangren with a complicated gaze. Although they had not known each other for a long time and nothing unforgettable had happened between them, this person seemed to be unforgettable to her. Perhaps this was his natural charisma. Some people were born with the ability to impress others. All right. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly and bade farewell to Qing Feng. Since he had already mastered the Green Phoenix physique and learned the Jade Lake Immortal Scripture, she was of no use to him. Wutong Mountain? Maybe I can go there if I have the chance. Lil Hong has also come to the Green Orchid Immortal World, but there's no news of her. Maybe there'll be some clues there. Besides Chu Hong, there was also Yin Honghua. He had to find some time to find out more about these 2 women. When he left, Chu Kuangren glanced at Gu Wuqing and Gu Lufang. Gu Wuqing cupped his fists and said, Brother, I'll never forget your kindness. I'll definitely repay you someday. Gu Wuqing was a little embarrassed to say that. Gu Wuqing had saved his life, but he had no way to repay him now. Moreover, judging from Gu Wuqing's talent and strength, she would only surpass him in the future. When that time came, Gu Wuqing would not need him anymore. I'm old friends with the ancient immortal, so there's no need for me to repay him. Chu Kuangren hesitated for a moment before he said, I'm very sorry about the ancient immortal's death. If you need any help, you can come to me. I'll do my best. Jianguan looked at Chu Kuangren in surprise. From what he knew, Chu Kuangren was not someone who gave promises easily. It seemed that this ancient immortal was of great significance to him. In fact, the ancient immortal was not of great significance to Chu Kuangren, but to Firmament Star. It was because of him that came to Firmament Star and spread the Tao of cultivation that the Firmament Star's cultivation civilization developed rapidly in the early stages. Based on that alone, Chu Kuangren did not mind making a promise. If possible, he would also investigate the ancient immortal's death. Gu Wuqing was a little touched when he heard that. After the Gu family was in trouble, Those who were on good terms with the Gu family avoided them. No one was willing to help. However, he did not expect to meet Chu Kuangren in this unfamiliar green orchid immortal world. Chu Kuangren was 100 times better than those who were on good terms with the Gu family. Chapter 965. Brother Chu, if you're free in the future, please come to the 100 Academy and I'll welcome you with open arms. Gu Lufeng smiled at Chu Kuangren. As long as he was not stupid, he knew he had to befriend such a peerless immortal seed. Even if he did not befriend him, he would try his best not to offend him. The 100 Academy? I'll remember that. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. Rumor had it that the 100 Academy had a long history of inheritance. The Academy had all kinds of cultivation scriptures and ancient secrets. If he had the time, he would visit it. After all, he wanted to create his own origin and walk a path that no one had ever walked before. Not only did this path require determination, but it also required a deep knowledge base. The 100 Academy was a good place to learn. After bidding farewell to the two, Chu Kuangren left. Gu Wuqing, who stayed behind, looked at Gu Lufeng and said, "Brother, are you from the 100 Academy?" "Yes, I am Gu Lufeng from the 100 Academy." Gu Wuqing's eyes lit up. Rumor has it that the 100 Academy believes in education without discrimination. I wonder if they accept outsiders. Of course, there are quite a few outsiders in the Academy. Gu Lufeng smiled. Then how do I join the Academy? Gu Wuqing wanted to avenge the Gu family. First, he had to survive in the Green Orchid Immortal Realm. Outsiders were not welcome here, so he had to find a strong force to rely on. The 100 Academy was a good choice. "Brother, please follow me back. I'll introduce you." "Thank you." Chu Kuangren and the others left the ancient orthodoxy ruins. Then, they came to an empty mountain range and Chu Kuangren asked Lan Yu about the winged human lady's inheritance. That lady is the strongest of the winged human tribe in the immortal realm. She died in the previous era, but she used some technique to preserve her immortal physique and immortal consciousness. She stayed here to wait for the inheritance. This inheritance belongs to the winged human tribe. Lan Yu explained slowly. Chu Kuangren was also using the spirit of omniscience to analyze her condition. Lan Yu originally possessed the holy radiant physique, but now it had evolved into a physique called the Radiant Combat Immortal Physique. It was created for Lan Yu by the supreme expert of the winged human tribe, using his own immortal physique and immortal consciousness. It was the most powerful immortal physique of the winged human tribe. It's not disappearing but transforming. In other words, a Taoist body can become an immortal body. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up. If the holy radiant body could do it, then what about the other physiques? Could his Tao body, such as the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, chaotic body, and heavenly yellow celestial sovereign body evolve into an immortal body? Chu Kuangren had a flash of inspiration. Lan Yu's peerless immortal body was formed by the winged human paragon's body and immortal consciousness. He did not have that kind of opportunity. However, he had the Book of Constitution. He could analyze Lan Yu's radiant combat immortal physique and study the process of her Tao physique evolving into an immortal physique. From there, he could upgrade his other physiques to immortal physiques. Upgrading my physiques. Perhaps this will be the next breakthrough for me to study the Book of Constitution. Chu Kuangren smirked and thought to himself. This time, Lan Yu had obtained the inheritance of the winged human paragon and obtained a great opportunity. Through this, Chu Kuangren had also gained some inspiration. In his opinion, this inspiration was no less than Lan Yu's. Lan Yu, you've just obtained this immortal physique, so you need some time to get used to it. I also need to refine the divine flame tinder of the flaming divine brilliance, so I'll go into closed-door meditation for a few days. Jianguan, please protect us. Chu Kuangren said to Jianguan. Jianguan nodded. Of course. While Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu were in closed-door meditation for a few days. However, the outside world was not peaceful either. The battle at the ancient orthodoxy's ruins had spread Chu Kuangren's name throughout the immortal ancient battlefield. Everyone now knew about him. He was in the limelight for a period of time. The other celestial seed kings were completely overshadowed by him. A month after that battle, another great disturbance occurred in the immortal ancient battlefield. This disturbance originated from the depths of the immortal ancient battlefield. This time, those who came to the immortal ancient battlefield weren't just immortal seeds, even immortals came to explore. They were active in the core region of the immortal ancient battlefield, fighting against the most powerful vengeful spirits. That was a place where immortal seeds found it hard to approach. On this very day, shocking news spread out from the depths of the immortal ancient battlefield. The legendary immortal ascension pond had appeared. For a time, the whole immortal ancient battlefield was shaken. The immortal ascension pool. Legend has it that the water of the pool can cleanse one's body and purify one's immortal body. If someone who hasn't become an immortal enters the pool, it will increase their chances of becoming an immortal. For a celestial seed, this celestial ascension pool cannot be missed. That's right. Now that the vengeful spirits in the core region of the immortal ancient battlefield have been more or less cleared out by the immortals, I must go take a look at this immortal ascension pool. Even if it's just for a cup of bath water, it's fine. Countless immortal seeds were eager to give it a try. The immortal ascension pond was extremely tempting to them. Somewhere in the immortal ancient battlefield, inside a cave, Chu Kuangren sat cross-legged with 3 blood-red resentful Buddhas placed in front of him. Traces of resentment surrounded his body. After a while, Chu Kuangren suddenly opened his eyes. Close. He channeled his thoughts and manipulated the 3 resentful Buddhas to collide with each other. Accompanied by a flash of blood-red Buddhist light, the 3 blood-red Buddha statues merged and turned into a Buddha statue with 3 heads and 6 arms. This Buddha statue was blood-red in color and was the size of 2 palms. It had 3 heads and 6 arms, and each head had a different expression. One was glaring at him with a ferocious expression. One was lowering its head and bemoaning the state of the universe. One had its eyes wide open and its face filled with fear. They were respectively anger, pity and fear. The resentful Buddha hovered in midair and emitted a blood-red Buddhist light. Its terrifying energy waves were like a tidal wave that spread out wave after wave. What an impressive 3-headed 6-armed resentful Buddha statue. It's quite a powerful one. Chu Kuangren looked at the resentful Buddha before him with a strange expression. He opened his palm and a surge of blood-red energy circulated within it. That energy resonated with the resentful Buddha statue and formed a resonance. Through this resentful Buddha statue, I've gained control of another resentful Qi origin. That's the 14th origin. Chu Kuangren smiled. His closed-door meditation did not last long. However, he had gained quite a lot. He had completely devoured the 4 divine flames kindling seeds, but he did not gain any new origin energy from them. Instead, his phoenix flame's power had increased significantly. What was worth mentioning was this resentful Buddha statue. Chu Kuangren had gained insights from this resentful Buddha statue. Apart from that, after he refined it, the 3 resentful Buddhas merged into one, forming a complete 3-headed 6-armed resentful Buddha statue, which was the sinister Buddha sect's most valuable treasure. With this immortal weapon, I've gained another trump card. Hey, let's do a lucky draw. Chu Kuangren murmured and opened the fantasy roulette. Congratulations, host, you've obtained the deity tier prize, the transcendent lotus seed. His eyes lit up. He opened the inventory and looked at the 10,000 transcendent lotus seeds introduction. The transcendent lotus was a celestial plant. Moreover, it was no ordinary celestial plant. It was a godly lotus that could evolve immortal techniques based on its origin. With 1 petal, it was considered a first-grade immortal technique. With 2 petals, it was considered a second-grade immortal technique. This godly lotus could reach the 12th grade. In theory, it could evolve up to 12 immortal techniques. However, this depended on the individual's ability. If the cultivator who nourished the godly lotus was not strong enough, the 12th grade immortal technique might not even evolve to 2 or 3 immortal techniques. It was a celestial plant whose effects depended on the cultivator's level. Chapter 966. Extract. Chu Kuangren extracted the godly lotus seed. And in an instant, a shiny golden lotus seed that was densely covered with mysterious Taoist patterns appeared within his body. An item that can help one manifest immortal techniques. Not bad. Chu Kuangren smiled in satisfaction. His own divine enlightenment wine had not been refined yet. He originally thought that the matter of evolving the immortal method would take a while, but now that he had this 10,000 law divine lotus seed, This matter could already be put on the agenda. He created his own celestial art and grasped the seal of law verification. This was the thought that Chu Kuangren had even before he entered the immortal realm. This was one of his two main directions of cultivation, as well as comprehending as much of the origin as possible, before he created his own origin. The power of origin, the seal of proof. These were all things that could help him increase his strength. The transcendent lotus seed has been planted in my body. All that's left is to collect the water and wood essences to water it, Chu Kuangren murmured. If the 10,000 law divine lotus wanted to grow, it was far from enough to just rely on Emperor Qi to nourish it. It also needed a large amount of water and wood essence, just like how flowers and plants needed water. In essence, there was not much difference between immortal plants and flowers. Lan, you should have gotten used to it by now, so it's about time for me to come out of my closed-door meditation. I'll analyze her radiant battle immortal physique and find a way to upgrade her Taoist physique. Chu Kuangren thought to himself. He went out of the cave. Outside the cave, the sky was still overcast like before. This immortal ancient battlefield was surrounded by resentment. So what kind of good weather could there be? He shook his head. I'll stay here for a while longer. If there's nothing worth fighting for, I'll leave. Outside the cave, Lan Yu had already come out of seclusion before him. She stood under the tree, tall and slender. She still wore the silver-white armor, and her silver-white hair casually draped over her shoulders. Her facial features were exquisite, and her blue eyes were like the ocean, clean and lively. His temperament was valiant and cold. She was like an awe-inspiring and inviolable Valkyrie. Young master, you're out of seclusion. When Lan Yu noticed Chu Kuangren, she turned around and smiled. Ripples appeared in her sky-blue eyes, filled with boundless tenderness. How's your immortal war physique? Chu Kuangren asked. I've gotten more or less used to it, and my cultivation base has broken through to the Tao Lord level. I've also gained control over the essence of light. Light is my Tao. Battle is my duty. The light battle source is the most suitable source for me. Lan Yu smiled faintly. Young master, congratulations on coming out of seclusion. Looking at your appearance, you seem to have gained something again. Jianguan walked over and smiled. It's all right. Chu Kuangren asked. Has anything happened recently? Yes. Before Jianguan could say anything, Little Fox jumped up and said, Boss, a few days ago, an immortal ascension pond appeared in the immortal ancient battlefield. Many people went there. Let's go join in the fun. Oh, the immortal ascension pool? Chu Kuangren's interest was piqued. Right, this is a treasured land that has obtained the fortune of heaven and earth. It is extremely beneficial for immortal seeds. Jianguan said. Since that's the case, let's go take a look. Chu Kuangren did not reject either. Soon they set off for the celestial ascension pool. Far outside the celestial ascension pool, many celestial seeds were still fighting for a place to enter the celestial ascension pool. They didn't know what kind of existence they would meet. On a mountain peak in the depths of the immortal ancient battlefield. In the immortal ancient battlefield that was filled with resentment chi, this mountain peak was particularly special. This was because the place was filled with an immortal light that prevented the surrounding resentment chi from approaching. This made this place seem out of place in the immortal ancient battlefield. On the mountain peak, there was a lake that covered a radius of 10 kilometers. The lake was filled with mist and immortal light. It was the celestial ascension pool that countless celestial seeds yearned for. The water in the celestial ascension pool was condensed from extremely pure spiritual chi. A single drop of water was equivalent to millions of spiritual marrows. The value of this 10 kilometers of water was inestimable. However, the more valuable thing was the immortal light that lingered in the lake. This immortal light intertwined with the pool water and formed a mysterious power. It was this immortal light that allowed the pool water to cleanse one's body and cleanse one's marrows. This was enough to allow the celestial seeds to walk the path of immortality more smoothly. Outside the celestial ascension pool, countless restrictions were set up by the immortals who entered the depths of the immortal ancient battlefield. The purpose was to prevent others from peeking into the celestial ascension pool. The immortals had already discussed this. Only immortal seeds from immortal orthodoxies had the right to enter the celestial ascension pool for baptism. However, to prevent others from gossiping, The immortals decided to give 10 spots to immortal seeds from other orthodoxies. As for who those 10 would be, that would depend on their strength. Outside the celestial ascension pool, a large number of immortal seeds were fighting. They were all fighting over 10 tokens. These represented the number of spots to enter the celestial ascension pool. The medallion changed hands a few times in the hands of the celestial seeds. One celestial seed managed to snatch the medallion, but in the next instant, it was snatched by the others. Ha, what a rare sight! In the sky, an immortal seed looked at the chaotic scene below and chuckled. This was a seed from the holy city. He looked at the immortal seeds fighting for tokens with disdain. The other immortal seeds from the other orthodoxies had similar expressions. Compared to the immortal seeds fighting for tokens, they were much better off. They'd already been selected from the start. This was the best example of having a big tree to rely on for shade. Who do you think will take the 10 spots? I don't know. It doesn't matter who gets them. Ignore them. Let's draw lots to decide who will enter the celestial ascension pool first. A man in a golden robe said faintly. This man was tall and had a dignified expression. He stood there like a king, making others want to bow down to him. This was one of the 12 immortal seed kings, the crown prince of the Daon dynasty, Yuanwu. The drawing lots he spoke of was the rule for entering the celestial ascension pool. The celestial ascension pool had enormous energy, enough to support the baptism of all the immortal seeds here. But during the baptism, the immortal seeds had to be completely focused. To prevent anyone from disturbing them or causing any accidents, the immortals decided to draw lots to decide the order. One orthodoxy at a time would enter the celestial ascension pool. Then let's begin. A beautiful woman in a white dress said. This woman was also one of the 12 immortal seed kings. There were 14 orbs of light before everyone, representing the 14 orthodoxies that came to the celestial battlefield. From 1 to 14, arrange them according to the numbers. The one who draws one can enter first, Yuanwu said. Then he began to draw lots. Look! All of a sudden, the immortal seeds around them exclaimed. The immortal seeds that were fighting for the spots to enter the celestial ascension pool suddenly stopped and looked into the distance in fear. They could feel an aura that was so strong that it was difficult for them to reach was approaching. At the end of their line of sight, a peerless white-robed figure was slowly walking towards them. Behind him were 3 people, 2 women and an old man with white hair. It was Chu Kuangren and the others. Chu Kuangren did not restrain his aura. Instead, he unleashed his domineering aura to shock all the immortal seeds present. He looked at the celestial ascension pool and smiled. This celestial ascension pool is really tempting to attract so many people. It's him, Chu Kuangren. Is he the monster that killed the immortal seed kings? So he's here too. The crowd discussed among themselves as they looked at Chu Kuangren with fear in their eyes. Meanwhile, the immortal seeds in the sky were also looking at Chu Kuangren curiously. One of the immortal seeds said coldly, Chu Kuangren, even you have to follow the rules if you want to enter the celestial ascension pool. You must compete with others for the spots to enter. Chu Kuangren looked at the immortal seeds around him and saw the tokens in their hands. He immediately understood what was going on. He sneered and looked at the void above the immortal seeds. Compete? Do I need to compete? Chapter 967. Fight? Do I need to fight? Chu Kuangren stood where he was and looked into the void. He could sense that there were more than 10 extremely powerful auras circulating there. They were auras that far surpassed the false immortal realm. They were immortals. As soon as Chu Kuangren finished speaking, an extremely powerful immortal core fluctuation suddenly erupted from Jingguan's body. A shocking sword intent rose from the ground and pierced through the clouds. Didn't you hear my master's question? Jingguan said. The crowd could not help but gulp at that. Master? That guy was Chu Kuangren's follower. F***CKme. Such a terrifying aura, it was an immortal. Chu Kuangren had an immortal as his follower. What kind of terrifying background was that? Who told me he's just an outsider with no background? An immortal as his follower? No background? You must be kidding me. An immortal as his follower? Oh my god. The immortal seeds were not the only ones who were shocked. The ones who were more shocked were the immortals who were hiding in the void. They looked at Jingguan in disbelief. wondering if they were hallucinating or dreaming. Otherwise, how could such a thing happen? Jianguan, the peerless sword immortal who dominated an era, was a follower of an outsider immortal seed? Was he messing with them? What the hell is going on? One of the immortals asked in confusion, but no one could answer him because everyone else was just as shocked and confused. Chu Kuangren, you don't have to compete with others for a spot, but to enter the Celestial Ascension pool, you'll have to draw lots. An indifferent voice came from the void. The immortals spoke. Obviously, they did not want to have any conflict with Jianguan. The fact that Chu Kuangren could subdue Jianguan had shocked everyone. They dared not stop Chu Kuangren before they had a clear understanding of the situation. Oh, we still have to draw lots? How troublesome. We're all immortal seeds, so let's settle this in the most direct way. Chu Kuangren stood with his hands behind his back and said, I want to be the first to enter. If anyone is unwilling, you can fight me or all of you can come at me together. I don't mind either way. His words caused an uproar. The immortal seeds looked at Chu Kuangren in disbelief. What did he just say? He wants to challenge all the immortal seeds from the immortal orthodoxies? Is he crazy? I can't believe it. How dare he do that? Even if he's Chu Kuangren, no matter how powerful he is, isn't it a little too arrogant for him to challenge all the immortal seeds? The ordinary immortal seeds gasped in shock, but the immortal seeds from the immortal orthodoxies who were challenged by Chu Kuangren were even more shocked and furious. After all, they were the most outstanding immortal seeds in the immortal seeds in. And no immortal heavens. This was especially true for the sage seed sovereigns. They glared at Chu Kuangren furiously. He to it. Zhu. Guangzhou especially, an A to immortal emperor was as he could he. He was emperors the celestial king. Were he sage too. Were the Sugu was too. He took a step forward and a majestic monarch chi poured out like a flood. An extremely strong origin energy erupted and crushed the surrounding space. If you can defeat me, I won't have any objections if you want to be the first to enter the Celestial Ascension pond. Come. The immortals in the void did not say anything. They were all curious to see what Chu Kuangren was capable of. Chu Kuangren beckoned with his finger. Come. Yuanwu made his move. His emperor's chi and origin ripples converged and turned into a golden fist ray. Chu Kuangren stood still. He gently lifted his arm, and his emperor's chi and origin ripples exploded at the same time, shattering the fist ray. Is this all the great primordial god dynasty's crown prince can do? Chu Kuangren did not take a step back. Invincible divine art? Sky tremor thunder. Yuanwu let out a low roar. His emperor's chi and Taoist patterns intertwined and turned into rays of blue lightning. He then threw a punch, and a thick lightning pillar that was imbued with origin ripples charged towards Chu Kuangren like a dragon. Honorable Emperor's sword art. The emperor's chi behind Chu Kuangren surged and turned into a golden emperor avatar. Then sword chi intertwined in the emperor avatar's palm, and turned into a golden sword shadow that slashed across the void. The sword shadow and the lightning pillar collided. A deafening explosion was heard. The lightning pillar exploded, but the sword chi was unstoppable. It slashed towards Yuanwu and sent him flying. The power of that attack made everyone's pupils dilate. He defeated a celestial seed king with a single sword attack. This person's combat strength is no weaker than what the rumors say. In fact, he's even stronger. Chu Kuangren stood with his hands behind his back. He looked at the kings from the various immortal orthodoxies and said, I've said that I'll allow all of you to come at me together. Why don't you take advantage of this opportunity? His words made the celestial seeds' faces turn pale. Let's go. I don't believe that he can defeat all of us by himself. These celestial seeds came from different immortal orthodoxies. Initially, they had a hostile relationship with each other. However, because of Chu Kuangren, they had become united against a common enemy. It was undeniable that Chu Kuangren had accomplished a great feat: myriad gale finger, infallible sword slash, flame dragon's raging roar. All sorts of powerful immortal technique fluctuations erupted. The immortal technique lights were incredibly dazzling as they continuously bloomed in the void. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren, who was in the center of the immortal technique attacks, remained as still as a mountain. He stood with his hands behind his back, and as he stood tall and straight, only purple lotuses bloomed around him. They then transformed into 1,000 lotus sword chi that blocked all the immortal technique attacks. Boom, boom, boom. Accompanied by a series of deafening explosions, the entire ground shook as cracks spread in all directions. Smoke and dust billowed, covering the sky. Everyone stared at the smoke and dust. There were remnants of violent immortal technique fluctuations there. Everyone felt that none of the celestial seeds could survive such a terrifying immortal technique attack. Did he succeed? Has this guy been defeated? Among the crowd there were a few celestial seeds who did not make a move, including Gu Wuqing and Gu Lufang. They looked at the smoke and dust with a smirk. Gu Lufang chuckled and said, "That person won't be defeated so easily." While everyone held their breaths, a wave of Emperor's Qi swept across the sky, dispersing the smoke and dust. Then a peerless white-robed figure appeared. Chu Kuangren stood proudly with a condescending gaze. He looked at the crowd and said, "Now it's your turn to take a move from me." As soon as he said that, the surrounding spiritual qi and wind stopped moving. It was as if the heavens and earth were holding their breath at that moment. Before Chu Kuangren even unleashed his technique, the crowd already felt an unprecedented pressure that made it difficult for them to breathe. With a single thought, "The heavens and earth shall perish." His indifferent words reverberated throughout the sky. Then, circles of purplish-red light ripples spread towards the crowd. Those who were hit by the light ripples were sent flying while vomiting blood. Even the celestial seed kings could not help but turn pale. In just 2 short breaths, the celestial seeds were lying on the ground, wailing in pain. Between the heavens and earth, only a white-robed figure stood proudly like a king looking down on the world. Chapter 968. Shocking, shocking. An unparalleled shock struck the hearts of everyone present. He had defeated all the immortal seeds with one move. That kind of strength stunned the other immortal seeds who did not participate in the battle. They stared at the proud white-robed figure in awe. Chu Kuangren retracted his emperor's qi and looked at the immortal seeds before him. "I'll go in first. Now, who else has any objections?" The immortal seeds lowered their heads wherever he looked. So many immortal seeds were defeated by a single person, and suppressed to the point where they couldn't even raise their heads. How could they have the face to say no? He has done his best as an immortal seed. Gu Wuqing looked at Chu Kuangren with admiration and even yearning. Yes, no immortal seed can be like him. He has defeated a group of immortal seed rulers before even stepping foot on the immortal ascension path. Gu Lufang could not help but exclaim, "Has he really not stepped foot on the immortal ascension path? But how can his combat strength be so strong?" Gu Wuqing asked doubtfully. "I'm afraid this is an anomaly," Gu Lufang murmured. Waves of powerful immortal energy erupted in the void. Evidently, these immortals were shocked by Chu Kuangren's combat strength. They could not even control their own immortal energy fluctuations. With such combat strength, has he really not stepped foot on the immortal ascension path? Even the oldest immortal orthodoxies might not be able to find such a powerful immortal seed, let alone an outsider. What kind of background does he have? Chu Kuangren sensed the immortal energy fluctuations and looked into the void. He said, "What's wrong, immortals? Do you have any objections?" Hearing this, Jian Guan also took a step forward, and the sword will filled the air. "Sure." After a moment of silence, the immortals allowed Chu Kuangren to enter first. After all, the immortal ascension pool had a massive amount of energy, enough to support the baptism of all the immortal seeds. "Let's go," Chu Kuangren said to Lan Yu and the others behind him. Immediately, they entered the immortal ascension pool. Looking at their backs, the immortal seeds had complicated looks in their eyes, and they felt an indescribable sense of defeat. D***. Yuan Wu punched the ground with a face full of indignation. As a ruler of celestial seeds he was proud, but today his pride was completely crushed by Chu Kuangren. Not only him, but the others felt the same way too. Are we going to let him in just like that? The immortals were conversing in the void. Let's investigate this person's background first. Why would Sword Crown follow this person? An immortal said. Before figuring this out, they didn't dare to act rashly for fear of provoking some formidable power. Although they were immortal orthodoxies, they were not completely invincible. there were many who could threaten them. For example, the Divine Beast clan, the Immortal Ancient Taoist Orthodoxy, and so on. All right. Then we'll take advantage of the time he's in the Immortal Ascension pool to investigate this person's background. Then we'll take action. The 14 Immortal Orthodoxies present were moving together. The amount of information they could mobilize was unimaginably vast, practically covering the entire Azure Orchid Immortal world. It could be said that no one could hide from such a search. Meanwhile, in the Celestial Ascension pool, Chu Kuangren stared at the 10-kilometer-wide lake in front of him with a hint of surprise in his eyes. So this is the Immortal Ascension Pond. It really is extraordinary. Little Fox and Lan Yu were also filled with anticipation. The little fox reverted to her true form and jumped into the Immortal Ascension Pond with a plop. She started swimming there. It's so comfortable. Boss, come down and let's bathe together. Little Fox said. Beside her, Jingguan smiled and said, Master, this Immortal Ascension Pond isn't that useful to me. I'll stay here and protect you. As he said that, he walked a distance away. Green lotuses bloomed in the void, forming layers of restrictions that isolated the 10-kilometer-wide Immortal Ascension Pond. After Jiangguan left, Lan Yu looked at Chu Kuangren. Master, let me help you change your clothes. Chu Kuangren nodded and did not refuse. All right. Lan Yu walked up and helped Chu Kuangren take off his clothes. Looking at his flawless white jade-like body, Lan Yu could not help but blush. Master, your skin is so good. It's so fair and smooth. Cough cough, is that a compliment? Chu Kuangren could not help but cough twice. Fair and smooth? Why did it feel so weird to use that to describe him? After Chu Kuangren took off his clothes, he walked into the Immortal Ascension Pond. In an instant, the surrounding immortal light soaked his body. He could feel surges of unique Immortal Ascension Pond energy entering his body through his pores. It cleansed his body of impurities, opened up his meridians, and purified his emperor's qi. Meridian cleansing. Chu Kuangren murmured. It was not his first time experiencing this, but the Immortal Ascension Pond's effects were more obvious. Just as he was experiencing the wonders of the Immortal Ascension Pond, he suddenly felt the transcendent lotus seed in his body tremble. There was a hint of desire in it. The movement of the transcendent lotus seed caught Chu Kuangren's attention. To nourish this transcendent lotus seed, I'll need a large amount of water and wood essence. Can this Immortal Ascension Pond be used to irrigate the transcendent lotus seed? Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up. Just as he was guessing, he heard the sound of water beside him. He looked over and saw an infinitely beautiful, white body entering the Immortal Ascension Pond and walking towards him. Chu Kuangren was stunned. Lan Yu? Master, let me massage your shoulders. Lan Yu walked behind Chu Kuangren and said. She did not mind her naked body at all. To her, her entire body belonged to Chu Kuangren. Letting him see her naked body was nothing to her. Chu Kuangren recovered from his shock after a while. All right. He could feel Lan Yu's soft hands massaging his shoulders. From time to time, he could also feel a pair of soft breasts pressing against his back. Lan Yu's body is quite nice after all. Chu Kuangren thought to himself. Boss, I'll help you too. The little fox swam over. Unknowingly, she had already transformed into her human form. Her face was flushed red and she looked very cute. She came up to massage Chu Kuangren's back and legs. However, how could a fox's hands be so nimble? Chu Kuangren activated his mind power and immediately flung the fox away. You're so clumsy. I think you should just stand aside and watch your back. With a splash, water splashed everywhere. The little fox emerged from the water and looked at her tiny arms and legs. She could not help but pout. As expected, boss, you're still interested in those who are more mature. I've got to grow up faster. However, as a divine beast, the Moonlight Fox had a long lifespan. She was only in the growth stage now, and no one knew when she would reach maturity. Chu Kuangren was enjoying Lan Yu's service. Just like that, 3 days passed. Chu Kuangren felt that the Immortal Ascension Pond's baptism was almost done. Lan Yu and the little fox's physique had also improved greatly. Logically speaking, they should leave now and let the other orthodoxies in. However, Chu Kuangren did not leave. He even stayed in the Immortal Ascension Pond and did not come up. Master, do you have any plans? Lan Yu asked curiously. Yes, I do have a plan, but I'm afraid that the other orthodoxies will kill me. But why should I be afraid? He chuckled. Chapter 969. Chu Kuangren was still in the Celestial Ascension Pond. He was planning something. With a thought, an incomparably violent suction force erupted from his body. Instantly, waves surged and splashed everywhere. Chu Kuangren swallowed a large amount of the pond water into his body. He wanted to use the Celestial Ascension Pond water to irrigate the Transcendent Lotus. The Celestial Ascension Pond was a natural water and wood essence. It was the most suitable nutrient for the Transcendent Lotus. The Transcendent Lotus seed that was irrigated by the Celestial Ascension Pond water began to sprout and form a flower bud in a very short time. That was not all. A lotus petal bloomed, and the Tier 1 Transcendent Lotus was formed. Mysterious Taoist patterns flowed on the lotus petal, and Chu Kuangren channeled his sword Tao origin energy into the petal. In an instant, the origin energy evolved. Chu Kuangren looked at the lotus petal and felt as if his mind was pulled into an ethereal realm. Countless Taoist techniques surged into his mind. If one's comprehension was not strong enough, they would be overwhelmed by the Taoist techniques in an instant. However, Chu Kuangren did not. His comprehension was so amazing that it could be called a monster. Not only did the countless Taoist techniques not dazzle him, but it also allowed him to quickly find a pattern and derive sword techniques based on those Taoist techniques. At that moment, the Celestial Ascension Pond water continued to pour into the lotus seed, and the second petal gradually formed. Chu Kuangren then channeled another surge of origin energy into it to derive the origin Taoist techniques. Chu Kuangren's three souls, heaven, earth and human, were activated at the same time. All three souls were trying to understand the Transcendent Lotus together. He quickly deduced all kinds of celestial arts. In the outside world, the sword crown was guarding the barrier to prevent anyone from entering and disturbing Chu Kuangren's baptism. However, a strange energy fluctuation suddenly came from the Celestial Ascension Pond, and the spiritual chi of heaven and earth surged into the barrier. What's going on? The sword crown was stunned. He was not the only one. In the outside world, the few immortals also noticed the strange movement. What's going on? Why is there such a sudden movement in the Celestial Ascension Pond? The immortals looked at each other and activated their immortal consciousness to sense what was happening in the Celestial Ascension Pond. However, before their immortal consciousness could get close, it was blocked by the sword crown's barrier. Humph! Jianguan snorted lightly. Sword intent suffused the air and severed those immortal senses one by one. Everyone, my young master is undergoing a baptism. Aren't you being too rude by extending your immortal senses over to peep at him? Sword Crown, what happened inside? An immortal asked coldly. This has nothing to do with you, Jianguan said indifferently. Let's wait and see first, said an immortal. Not long after, waves of mysterious Tao sounds began to reverberate. That was the sound of the great Tao of the universe. The pupils of the immortals present shrank. Is Chu Kuangren creating his own immortal technique in there? Isn't it a baptism? How did it become self-created immortal techniques? Moreover, he's not even an immortal, so how could he have self-created immortal techniques? What's going on? The immortals were puzzled. Jianguan was also a little confused. What was the young master doing inside? In the immortal ascension pool, Chu Kuangren absorbed the 5 kilometers of water from the lake and watered the godly lotus seed. In next to no time, a proof seal condensed into form above him, and it represented that he'd created an immortal technique of his own. However, it didn't take long for another seal of corroboration to form. The second immortal technique was completed. The godly lotus seed grew from the first grade to the second grade, and then to the third grade with Chu Kuangren's strong perception and the help of the godly lotus seed. He was continuously creating his own immortal techniques. If news of this were to spread, the entire Qinglan cosmos would be shocked. After all, self-creating immortal techniques was something that even an immortal could only achieve after spending a lot of effort. 4 seals, 5 seals, 6 seals, in less than 10 days, 8 proof seals appeared above Chu Kuangren's head, proving that he had self-created 8 immortal techniques. Boss, you're going against the heavens. Beside the celestial ascension pool, Little Fox was dumbfounded. In front of them, the 10 kilometers of celestial ascension pool had already disappeared. Not even a drop of water remained. It was all absorbed by the transcendent lotus seed. All of a sudden, another proof seal appeared above Chu Kuangren's head. 9 seals. 9 immortal techniques. Outside the celestial ascension pool, the crowd of immortals could no longer hold themselves back. They could sense that within the celestial ascension pool, rich and mysterious Taoist rhymes reverberated continuously. Countless spiritual qi condensed, golden lotuses sprouted from the ground, and auspicious phenomena such as dragons and phoenixes appeared continuously. That commotion had far exceeded the commotion that could be caused by an ordinary immortal creating his own immortal technique. Moreover, it had lasted for a whole 10 days. No, we must find out what Chu Kuangren is doing inside to cause such a commotion. Let's wait a little longer. He'll come out sooner or later. For some reason, the immortals' eyelids twitched. They had a feeling that something bad was about to happen. Oh, there's news. At that moment, one of the immortals said as he took out a jade scroll. The Sage City's investigation on Chu Kuangren is in here. He tossed the jade scroll in his hand into the air. Then, the jade scroll reflected a series of images and a large amount of text information. Soon, everyone had a clear understanding of what Chu Kuangren had done after he came to the immortal realm. Based on this investigation, Chu Kuangren is indeed an outsider. He should have no background in the Green Orchid immortal realm. Then why would Sword Crown follow him? One of the immortals asked curiously. Look at this message. It says that Chu Kuangren and Sword Crown met in the ancient Sparrow City. At that time, Sword Crown was just an old drunkard. He was extremely sloppy and dispirited. One of the immortals clicked on a video, and the image of an old drunkard appeared on it. It was the old Sword Crown. Looking at the Sword Crown in the video, everyone could not associate him with the high-spirited and peerless Sword Immortal. We can speculate that the Sword Crown had yet to recover from his serious injuries from his battle with Sword Crown and became a cripple. However, the Sword Crown in front of us was at his peak, a true Sword Immortal. All of this must have something to do with Chu Kuangren. Perhaps he's the one who helped Sword Crown recover. And that's the reason why Sword Crown followed him. The Sage City Immortals said confidently. His words made the crowd look at each other. Sword Crown hasn't recovered from his injuries for so many years. How did Chu Kuangren do it? Does he have the ability to do so? Could it be that he's also a sage doctor? The crowd was in disbelief. A sage doctor was too rare. In the current generation of the Green Orchid Immortal Realm, they had never heard of a doctor who had reached the level of a sage doctor. I know it's hard to believe, but this is the only explanation that could explain why Sword Crown would follow Chu Kuangren. However, after disregarding all the impossibilities, no matter how unbelievable the remaining possibility is, it must be the truth. The immortal said calmly. This person was an immortal from the Sage City, and his name was Nan Ku. Upon hearing his words, the crowd began to believe him a little. Chu Kuangren healed Sword Crown and allowed him to follow him. This is more acceptable than having a terrifying orthodoxy behind him. In short, since we now know why Sword Crown followed Chu Kuangren, we don't have to worry anymore. We can't let this person live. Nanku said coldly. The Sage City's celestial seed king was killed by Chu Kuangren. He would not let this matter rest so easily. Chapter 970. In the void, the immortals were communicating through their immortal consciousnesses. Sage City Nanku had decided to get rid of Chu Kuangren right here, and now to prevent any future troubles. The immortals from the Divine Flame School of Light and the Golden Hill Temple had the same idea as him. As for the rest of the immortals, they did not say a word. Compared to the Divine Flame Cult and the other immortal orthodoxies, they did not have much of a grudge against Chu Kuangren. There was no need for them to fight Sword Crown to the death for him. I've long wanted to see Sword Crown's strength. An immortal carrying a saber on his back said indifferently. That person was an immortal from the Sword Burial Sea. Sword Crown and Sword Crown were mortal enemies, so there was no possibility of reconciliation between them. Therefore, it was reasonable for him to attack Sword Crown and Chu Kuangren, who had helped Sword Crown recover his strength. Let us, the great primordial god dynasty, take part in this. However, I have a request. After we kill Chu Kuangren, the great primordial god dynasty must take the woman beside him with us. A middle-aged man in embroidered robes said. He was an immortal from the great primordial god dynasty, the most honorable prince of the dynasty. The woman he was referring to was naturally Lan Yu, who had obtained the winged human supremacy's inheritance and possessed the radiant combat immortal physique. The immortals' eyes lit up when they heard that. How could they have forgotten about that? That woman has the winged human supremacy's inheritance. If you want to take it away just like that, isn't that a little too much? That's right. We want that woman's inheritance too. Prince Yuan frowned. If that's the case, then the woman's inheritance can be divided equally. What about the Moonlight Fox? We want the Moonlight Fox too. And Chu Kuangren, he has a big secret on him. After we kill him, we must bring his corpse back for research. Before the immortals could make a move, they had already started discussing how to divide the loot after killing Chu Kuangren. From their perspective, Chu Kuangren was a treasure trove. Just the Moonlight Fox and Lan Yu alone were enough to tempt them. Not to mention the secrets of how he controlled multiple origins in the Phoenix Flames. These were also very tempting to the immortals. Inside the Immortal Ascension Pool, the 9 technique testimony seals floated above Chu Kuangren's head. He slowly opened his eyes and a satisfied smile appeared on his face. The 9 stages of Lotus Blossom allowed me to grasp 9 types of immortal arts. The celestial method is secondary. The most important thing is that I now have 9 more Dharma testimony seals. In addition to the previous 2 Dharma testimony seals, I now have 11 more Dharma testimony seals. In addition to the power of origin, my battle prowess has become stronger. He glanced at the empty celestial ascension pond and smiled faintly before he stood up and left. Lan Yu thoughtfully took out a set of clothes from the side. Chu Kuangren activated his spatial conveyor technique, and the clothes automatically covered his body. Lan Yu's eyes flashed with disappointment. The space transportation technique was indeed useful, but it was a pity. She wanted to get closer to her young master while she was wearing her clothes. Let's go, Chu Kuangren said. Outside the Immortal Ascension Pool. Then it's decided. Immortal Nank of the Holy City said calmly. After a round of discussion, they finally came to a decision on how to divide the spoils. The immortals who didn't participate in the operation were tempted. Why don't they join as well? At that moment, the restriction outside the Immortal Ascension Pool shone brightly. Chu Kuangren and the others walked out. We're finally out. A murderous intent flashed across Nank's eyes. However, he suddenly frowned and looked behind Chu Kuangren. His eyes narrowed. Where's the Immortal Ascension Pond? The other immortals' expressions changed when they heard that. Behind Chu Kuangren, all that was left of the Immortal Ascension Pond was a large crater, and the water was long gone. The Immortal Ascension Pond was gone. At that moment, not only the immortals, but the entire mountain peak was in an uproar. Chu Kuangren, what's going on? Why is the Immortal Ascension Pond gone? Where did you put the Immortal Ascension Pond? The Immortal Ascension Pond is gone? What should we do then? We haven't even been baptized yet. What did Chu Kuangren do inside? We shouldn't have let him in first. The immortal seeds were agitated. After all, they were here for the Immortal Ascension Pond. Now that the Immortal Ascension Pond was gone, how could they accept that? They had fought for nothing and waited for so long for nothing. Chu Kuangren, you must give us an explanation. Yuan Wu of the Great Yuan God Dynasty said to Chu Kuangren. The other immortal seeds also stared at him. I'm sorry, but I've sucked the entire Celestial Ascension Pool dry. Chu Kuangren had no intention of hiding it, so he admitted it right away. Bathing in the Immortal Ascension Pool? What kind of reward was that? This Immortal Ascension Pool could be used to nourish the 10,000 Law God Lotus. How could he miss such a good thing? Of course he had to make the best use of it. As for guilt, there was no such thing. In any case, the Immortal Ascension Pond was naturally nurtured by the heavens and the earth. Sucked dry. Upon hearing Chu Kuangren's answer, everyone was dumbfounded. The size of the Celestial Ascension Pond was enough to support the baptism of all the immortal seeds present, yet it was sucked dry by Chu Kuangren alone. What kind of joke was this? In the legends of the ancient immortal world, there are giants who can drink all the water in a river. But he's not a giant, so how did he do it? Are you kidding me? Even if he's a giant, how could he absorb all the terrifying energy in the Immortal Ascension Pond? Not even immortals can do it. Puzzled, shocked, and dumbfounded, the immortal seeds stared at Chu Kuangren with different emotions. No matter what, Chu Kuangren had made the immortal ascension pawn disappear and robbed them of their opportunities of fortune. This was true. They glared at each other with eyes that were about to spit fire. Chu Kuangren, you deserve to die. Yuanwu gritted his teeth and said. Chu Kuangren glanced at him. What, do you want to fight? The immortal seeds recalled the scene of Chu Kuangren defeating them in one move not long ago. Their hearts trembled as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over them, and they quickly calmed down. Yes, so what if they were angry? Were they supposed to rush up and fight Chu Kuangren? Were they his opponents? Would they not be courting death if they went up? Chu Kuangren, you're digging your own grave by robbing others of their opportunities of fortune. At that moment, a cold voice rang out from the sky. Then a few figures walked out from the void, and a terrifying immortal domineering aura filled the entire place. All the immortal seeds were shocked, but then their faces lit up as they looked at Chu Kuangren with a gloating expression. The immortals have made their move. Chu Kuangren's actions have finally triggered the immortals' killing intent. He's dead meat now. That's right. With the immortals making their move, Chu Kuangren won't die even if he has 10 lives. Karma, karma. The flaming sun immortal of the Divine Flame Church, Nank of the Celestial Capital, the king of the great primordial god dynasty, frigid saber immortal of the burial sword ocean, sacred monk Jufa of the Golden Hill Temple. My god, 5 immortals are making their move. Chu Kuangren is really dead meat now. When the 5 immortals made their move, their overbearing immortal core energy shook the surrounding void and completely sealed off the surrounding space. Jianguan's eyes revealed a hint of seriousness as he sneered. 5 immortals are making their move just to deal with the immortal seed who hasn't become an immortal yet. The few of you have really embarrassed the immortals. Humph. Not just for Chu Kuangren but also for you, Jianguan. Frigid Saber Immortal said coldly. Jianguan's immortal core energy erupted, and his sword intent soared into the sky as he confronted the 5 immortals. Oh, you can try then. Chapter 971. Then you can give it a try. The celestial core power on Sword Crown's body erupted, and his sword intent was shocking. The 5 immortals looked at him seriously. No wonder he is one of the 7 champions. This kind of chi is extraordinary. At his peak, he was probably close to the Earth Immortal level. Everyone be careful. Just do as I said. The Cold Sky Saber Immortal said. He took the first step forward, and an incomparably powerful saber might burst forth, transforming into a huge saber shadow that crushed towards the sword crown. Holy monk Jufa of the Golden Mountain Temple followed closely behind. He put his palms together, and a golden Buddha materialized out of thin air. The Buddha's palm blasted out, accompanied by Buddhist light that filled the sky. You want to stop me with just this? Jianguan snorted coldly and pointed his sword finger. A green lotus bloomed in the air, and the 1,000 lotus sword will whizzed out, shattering the blade shadows and forcing back the Dharma of the Buddha. At this moment, Prince Yuan made his move. He took a step forward and countless Taoist patterns condensed in the void. His celestial core power was like an inescapable net that pressed down on the sword crown. His immortal essence manifested into thousands of evil ghosts and asuras, turning the surroundings into purgatory. Immortal magic. Hell realm. Prince Yuan sneered. Jianguan frowned slightly. Oh, a domain-type immortal art. You want to use this move to trap me? Isn't that a little too whimsical? He pointed his sword finger, and sword chi spread out in all directions. Thousands of evil ghosts and asuras collapsed and frantically attacked the domain immortal technique. The sword crown truly lives up to its name. This sword energy is something that few in the entire Qinglan immortal world can compare to. Prince Yuan's expression changed slightly. Hurry up and take action. Grand Prince Yuan won't be able to hold on for much longer. Nanku said. Then he, Cold Sky Blade Immortal, and Holy Monk Jufa attacked at the same time, suppressing the sword crown. In addition to Prince Yuan's realm immortal technique, the power of the 4 immortals finally managed to delay sword crown. On the other hand, the flaming sun immortal of the Divine Flame Church was glaring at Chu Kuangren with a burning murderous intent in his eyes. So this is your battle plan. The 4 immortals will restrain sword crown, And you, the weakest, will deal with me. Chu Kuangren chuckled. The weakest? Flaming Sun raised his eyebrows as he clutched the wound on his arm. It had been cut by the sword crown not long ago. Losing an arm caused his strength to drop drastically. It was true that he was the weakest of the 5 immortals. At that thought, his eyes were filled with hatred. He glared at Chu Kuangren and said, "You've killed the divine flame cult of enlightenment's deities one after another, and you've even caused me to lose an arm. Today, I must avenge myself by killing you." In the face of the immortal's killing intent, Chu Kuangren remained calm. "Do you really think that you have the ability to kill me?" Upon hearing that, Flaming Sun was stunned for a moment before he burst into laughter. "Chu Kuangren, no matter how strong you are, you're still not an immortal. No matter how weak I am, I'm still an immortal. Killing you is as easy as flipping my palm." After he finished speaking, he raised his hand and gathered the surrounding streams of fire. Immortal elemental energy fluctuations suddenly erupted. That was the complete power of origin. A blazing wave of fire whistled out as he struck out with his palm, and merely the remnant might had already transformed the surrounding 5,000 kilometers into a sea of fire. The surrounding immortal seeds hurriedly retreated, not daring to approach. So powerful. This is the power of an immortal. The immortal seed is no match for it. Even an immortal seed king would be helpless in front of such power. The immortal seeds were amazed. At the same time, they looked at Chu Kuangren with excitement in their eyes. Chu Kuangren had defeated them with a single move, humiliating them, and even snatching away their opportunities of fortune from the Celestial Ascension Pond. They could not wait to tear him into pieces, but they did not have the strength to do so. Now an immortal had made his move. To them, the immortal seeds were just immortal seeds. In the face of an immortal's mighty power, they would definitely be destroyed. However, just when everyone thought that Chu Kuangren was dead for sure, they suddenly saw a terrifying surge of energy erupt from Chu Kuangren's body. 1 surge, 2 surges, 3 surges. A total of 14 origin energies erupted. However, it was not over yet. One after another, mysterious seals emerged and hovered above Chu Kuangren's head, enhancing his strength. Those were the technique validation seals. 1 stone, 2 stones, 3 stones, 11 technique validation seals were used. The power of origin and the technique validation seals. Chu Kuangren's 2 trump cards were unleashed at the same time, causing his entire body to shine brightly with a majestic aura. The Descendant Self-Sword was unleashed, and a dazzling purple sword ray erupted. That sword technique pursued the ultimate attack. It was a brand new immortal technique formed after Chu Kuangren upgraded the heaven-slaying sword drawing technique into an immortal technique, and merged it with the Thousand Lotus Sword intent. He still called it the Thousand Lotus Sword intent. However, it was the Thousand Lotus Sword intent that belonged solely to him. The sword ray wrapped around the purple lotus and tore apart the sea of flames, completely disintegrating Flaming Sun Immortal's attack. That scene shocked everyone at the scene. Even Flaming Sun Immortal could not help but widen his eyes as if he had seen something unbelievable. 14 origin energies, 11 technique validation seals. What the hell is going on with this guy? Before he could answer his question, Chu Kuangren had already taken the initiative to attack him with his sword. Chu Kuangren's movements were unpredictable. At that moment, it was as if Chu Kuangren had merged into the void. Flaming Sun Immortal's immortal consciousness could not capture his movements. It was as if Chu Kuangren was everywhere in front of him, but it also felt like an illusion. That was Chu Kuangren's self-created movement technique, the ethereal illusion. Skyweaver Sword Chi. Chu Kuangren's figure was constantly shifting in the void, but his sword chi continued to surge out one after another. They intertwined in the void and formed into an inescapable net that carried an overbearing murderous aura as it headed towards the Flaming Sun Immortal. Another self-created immortal technique. Sensing the impending danger, Flaming Sun Immortal let out a roar and the immortal core on his body erupted. Majestic waves of fire swept out and shattered the inescapable net formed by the intertwining sword chi. However, after the sword chi net was shattered, a bright moon appeared in the void. As the moonlight flowed, countless sword chi shot out from it. It was like a mighty and unstoppable river of sword chi. Moonlight illuminates the river. Chu Kuangren's voice rang out. Flaming Sun Immortal roared as his immortal core circulated. He blasted out a giant python that was formed by flames and collided with the river of sword chi. When the two forces collided, Flaming Sun Immortal was pushed back 100 meters. 10,000 Ghosts Resentment. That was not the end. Chu Kuangren appeared out of thin air and spun the Descendant Self technique in his hand. The resentment chi that existed in the immortal ancient battlefield swept over and turned into thousands of wailing ghosts that charged towards Flaming Sun Immortal. 14 origin energies, 11 Dharma seals, and an endless stream of immortal techniques had allowed Chu Kuangren to suppress Flaming Sun Immortal with his immortal seed body. Even if Flaming Sun Immortal was at his lowest point and was the weakest immortal, he was still an immortal. That scene made the immortal seeds feel like they were dreaming. The immortal was pushed back and suppressed. Moreover, he was suppressed by an immortal seed. This kind of thing was completely beyond their imagination. What? What is this? We're all trying so hard to ascend to immortality, but he can already fight against an immortal. They're on two completely different levels. One of the immortal seeds said with an indescribable shock. The rest of the immortal seeds, including the kings, could not help but feel a sense of helplessness when they saw the peerless white-robed figure that could fight against an immortal. The gap between them was just too big. Chapter 972. Outside the Celestial Ascension Pool, Jian Guan fought against 4 immortals alone. Chu Kuangren, who was only a celestial seed, was able to fight against the immortals and even suppress them to a certain extent. The celestial seeds were baffled by the situation. The difference between a celestial seed and an immortal was like the difference between heaven and earth. They had never heard of anyone who could overcome this barrier and fight against an immortal. Even in the ancient immortal realm, there were not many who could do that. Chu Kuangren is an anomaly. If he doesn't die, he'll definitely become the strongest existence in the Qinglan immortal realm in the future. It's almost certain that he'll reach the 7 crowns level. The celestial seeds were shocked and amazed. The celestial seed kings were even more dejected. They could see that there was an unimaginable gap between them and Chu Kuangren. It was difficult for them to cross. Boom, 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 one after another. Immortal techniques were unleashed from Chu Kuangren's hands towards the Flaming Sun Immortal in an attempt to suppress him. At that moment, thousands of evil spirits formed from resentment rushed towards Flaming Sun Immortal, wanting to tear him into pieces. Flaming Sun Immortal's expression was extremely gloomy as divine flames surrounded his body, burning the evil spirits into ashes. However, as long as the resentment was not exhausted, the evil spirits would not stop. D***. How does this guy have such a strange immortal technique? Coupled with the 11 Dharma testimony seals, the power of this immortal technique has far exceeded the limits of what the celestial seeds can unleash. As an immortal, Flaming Sun Immortal was now suppressed by an immortal seed. This made him feel ashamed and humiliated. If word got out, he would become a laughingstock among the immortals. The first immortal to be suppressed by an immortal seed? No. If he were to bear such a title, he would probably spend the rest of his life in endless mockery. He would never allow that to happen. Chu Kuangren, I'll kill you today. Immortal Yenri bellowed furiously. The immortal elemental energy in his body was pushed to the limit. The vast immortal elemental energy transformed into boundless scarlet flames. Majestic waves of fire incinerated the grievous energy within a radius of 10,000 li. Chu Kuangren cast his ethereal illusion body and dodged the flames. He smirked. You're angry. Chu Kuangren, die. Immortal Flaming Sun ignored his opponent's mockery. He was so angry that his eyes were bloodshot. Divine fire soared into the sky, burning more than half the sky. The land within a radius of millions of kilometers dried up and cracked because of the extreme heat. Countless immortal seeds were drenched in sweat as they activated their cultivation to resist. Chu Kuangren looked calmly at the furious Flaming Sun Immortal. With the dermic seal above his head, he was surrounded by origin energy that shone brightly. In the endless sea of fire, it formed its own space. Extreme fire of 8 desolation. Dominate the world. Immortal Yenri let out a long roar. The divine flames around him erupted and gathered in his palm, turning into an enormous scarlet fireball. It was like a great sun, the fiery light dazzling, illuminating the entire immortal ancient battlefield. Upon seeing that, Chu Kuangren's gaze froze. Even the weakest half-crippled immortal was not to be underestimated. With his current strength, it would not be easy for him to block it. In the distance, Sword Crown, who was being held back by the four immortals, looked anxious. "Damn it!" he shouted in a low voice, and a green sword light shot out from his body. The green lotus immortal sword was in his hand. The Thousand Lotus Sword intent was activated to its limit. Thousands of sword chi swept across all directions, destroying the evil spirits and asuras. Upon seeing that, the four immortals did not dare to be careless. They quickly activated their immortal primordial energy to defend themselves and used various immortal techniques. Sword Crown, you may be strong, but you have yet to fully recover from your injuries. It won't be easy for you to defeat us so quickly. That's right. Chu Kuangren will die today. It's already amazing that he can do this, but he's still below the immortal realm. Against immortal Flaming Sun, there's nothing he can do. The four immortals said coldly, trying to distract Sword Crown's mind. On the other side, immortal Flaming Sun unleashed his full strength, holding up a great sun with one hand. Under the illumination of the flames, Chu Kuangren looked exceptionally small. Then the great sun of flames smashed down on him. Wherever the great sun passed, the void was distorted. It was as if the immortal realm's space had collapsed. The immortal seeds were extremely shocked. This was the true strength of an immortal. It's over. Chu Kuangren is really done for. He definitely won't be able to block this attack. No one thought that any immortal seed could block this immortal's full force attack. Even Lan Yu could not help but feel worried. Little Fox was as anxious as a cat on a hot tin roof. Gu Wuqing's eyes were bloodshot. His benefactor was about to be killed by an immortal here, yet he could not do anything about it. This made him extremely unwilling. Sigh, what a pity. Gu Lufang could not help but sigh. He truly felt sorry for Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren's talent and strength were not something an ordinary immortal seed could compare to. If he did not die, he would definitely achieve great things in the future. If he doesn't die, he might become the destined one in the prophecy, Gu Lufang murmured, feeling extremely regretful. Just when everyone thought that Chu Kuangren would not be able to block immortal Flaming Sun's attack, a burst of bloody light suddenly erupted from Chu Kuangren's body. The blood-colored light shot into the sky, and it actually contained Buddhist light and resentment. Two completely different types of energy shook the void in all directions. A bloody Buddha statue with 3 heads and 6 arms appeared behind Chu Kuangren. Then it turned into a gigantic resentful Buddha avatar. Not far away, sacred monk Jufa of the Golden Hill Temple was shocked when he saw the Buddha statue. That's the 3 heads and 6 arms resentful Buddha. The immortal weapon, the 3 heads and 6 arms resentful Buddha. The sinister Buddha sect's immortal weapon of the past. Now this ancient immortal weapon was about to shine brilliantly in Chu Kuangren's hands. Boundless blood-colored Buddhist light surged as the gigantic Buddha of resentment avatar put its palms together, and the Buddhist light blasted towards the gigantic fireball. The two unparalleled forces collided together. The surrounding void collapsed. The entire immortal ancient battlefield was shaken. The shockwave of energy swept across, and some of the immortal seeds that were closer could not withstand the force and exploded into a bloody mist. When the dust settled, Chu Kuangren was seen standing proudly with the 3 heads and 6 arms resentful Buddha sitting in the void behind him. That's a heavenly immortal weapon. Immortal Flaming Sun's expression changed. Immortals were categorized into different levels. Naturally, there were immortal techniques and immortal weapons. Normal immortal weapons, earthly immortal weapons, heavenly immortal weapons. Heavenly immortal weapons were considered rare treasures in the entire Green Orchid immortal realm. Even the Divine Flame sect did not have one. However, Chu Kuangren had taken out a heavenly immortal weapon. D***, why does this person have so many trump cards? Flaming Sun Immortal was furious. Even if you have an immortal weapon, your cultivation level is still below the immortal realm. How much of this weapon's power can you unleash? You may be able to block my attack, but I don't believe you can use this immortal weapon to block me 10 times or even 100 times. Flaming Sun Immortal roared and activated his divine flame again. However, Chu Kuangren merely smiled. Who told you that I only have one immortal weapon on me? He raised his hand and took out an ancient green mirror. The ancient mirror soared into the sky and shone towards immortal flaming Sunday. A ray of green light shot out, accompanied by the cry of a green luan. Flaming Sun Immortal was hit by the green light, and half of his body was pulverized. Then, the resentful Buddha behind Chu Kuangren attacked. It put its palms together and unleashed a bloody Buddhist light, killing Flaming Sun Immortal. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. Before the crowd could react, Flaming Sun Immortal was already dead. Chu Kuangren had defied the heavens and killed an immortal. Chapter 973. The Flaming Sun Immortal had fallen. That scene caused the entire battlefield to fall into a dead silence. Behind Chu Kuangren was the resentful Buddha, whose blood-colored Buddhist light shone upon the world. Beside him was the ancient green phoenix mirror. As the mirror rotated, it seemed as if it could shatter mountains and rivers and shatter stars. Another immortal weapon? And this immortal weapon looks much more powerful than the three-headed six-armed resentful Buddha. Where did this person get so many immortal weapons, and each one is more powerful than the last? Where did he get all of them? The crowd was dumbfounded. Immortal weapons were usually owned by immortals, and some of the immortal seeds possessed them as well. They were either people with great fortune or powerful backgrounds. However, even if they had immortal weapons, they were mostly ordinary immortal weapons. Yet, Chu Kuangren casually took out a heavenly immortal weapon. That ancient mirror could instantly kill the Flaming Sun Immortal, and the fact that it could allow an immortal seed to unleash such power meant that it was even more terrifying than a heavenly immortal weapon. Is that the green phoenix mirror? Among the crowd, a demonic beast could not help but be shocked when he saw the ancient mirror beside Chu Kuangren. Why would the Honorable Demon Court's painstaking search for the green phoenix mirror appear in the hands of a human? What was going on? Chu Kuangren did not know that his possession of the green phoenix mirror was seen by others. Even if he knew, he would not care. The green phoenix mirror was left behind by Qing Feng. For some reason, he did not ask for it when he left. However, since the immortal weapon was so powerful, he was more than happy to keep it in his hands as a trump card. That was why he killed an immortal the moment he attacked. What a terrifying immortal weapon. This item is at least a true immortal weapon. There are true immortal weapons in the Green Orchid Immortal realm? The other immortals who did not participate in the battle against Chu Kuangren could not help but feel shocked when they saw the Flaming Sun Immortal being killed. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren held the two immortal weapons in his hands as he looked into the void and said, "I wonder which other immortal wishes to kill me?" As a celestial seed, he dared to openly challenge an immortal. This scene made countless people exclaim in surprise. Chu Kuangren was one of a kind among the current generation of immortal seeds. At this point, the other immortals did not dare to act rashly. Not far away, the four immortals who were surrounding Sword Crown were shocked by Chu Kuangren's combat strength. They were slightly distracted, which gave Sword Crown an opportunity to break through Prince Yuan's immortal domain level technique and rush out. Jianguan came to Chu Kuangren's side. "Master, are you alright? A half-crippled immortal can't hurt me," Chu Kuangren said indifferently. Jianguan looked at Chu Kuangren. Like the others, he could not help but be shocked. Even if he was a half-crippled immortal, he was still an immortal. "Everyone, do any of you still want to fight?" Jianguan looked at the rest of the immortals. Sword light flowed around the green lotus immortal's sword in his hand, and a violent sword will swept in all directions, causing the immortals to be fearful. "Retreat." Nanku's expression was somewhat ugly. It was already the limit for the four immortals to restrain Sword Crown. Now that the Flaming Sun Immortal was dead and Sword Crown was no longer restricted, none of the immortals were willing to face the resentful Buddha and the green phoenix mirror head-on if they wanted to kill Chu Kuangren. The immortal's death trap collapsed just like that. It ended with Chu Kuangren killing the Flaming Sun Immortal. If no immortals are willing to fight, then we shall leave." Chu Kuangren kept the green phoenix mirror. The resentful Buddha said indifferently. It was not that he did not want to deal with the rest of the immortals who surrounded him. It was just that the strength of these immortals far surpassed the one-armed Flaming Sun Immortal. Even with the green phoenix mirror, he did not have the confidence to defeat them. Not to mention that Jianguan had not fully recovered his strength. After that, Chu Kuangren left with his people. Looking at his departing figure, The crowd had mixed feelings. Today, they finally understood what it meant by there was always someone better than you. Even the king of celestial seeds did not stand at the top of the celestial seeds. There was still Chu Kuangren who could defy the heavens and kill the immortals. After leaving the celestial ascension pond, Chu Kuangren did not stay in the celestial ancient battlefield. Instead, he went to Heaven Luo City to rest for a few days. Heaven Luo City. Inside a restaurant, Chu Kuangren was sitting at the side, drinking wine. The surrounding customers looked at him with fear in their eyes. He had clearly offended the celestial capital and killed the Heaven Luo City Lord. Yet he still dared to openly drink in Heaven Luo City. In this world, not many people had Chu Kuangren's guts. However, they had to admit that he had the strength and ability to do so. After all, among the current generation of celestial seeds in the Qinglan immortal realm, Chu Kuangren was definitely the only one who could go against the heavens and kill an immortal. Congratulations, host. You have obtained a god-tier prize, the 7-string zither heart. Chu Kuangren, who was drawing the lottery, was stunned. The 7-string zither heart? He had obtained another god-tier prize. Although he had the lucky halo, the chances of obtaining a god-tier prize in a short period of time were still very small. He had obtained the transcendent lotus seed a few days ago, and he thought that he would not get any more rewards in the near future. He did not expect to obtain another 7-string zither heart. What was the 7-string zither heart? Chu Kuangren opened his inventory and looked at the introduction. There were all kinds of physiques in this world, but there were also all kinds of innate abilities. For example, the Green Luan's Eye of Green Luan, the Moonlight Fox's Ignore Seals. The 7-string zither heart was also a kind of innate ability. It was related to the musical Tao. Cultivators with this kind of talent were blessed by the heavens in the way of the zither. They could quickly learn all kinds of zither songs and could easily become a zither grandmaster without much cultivation. Even becoming a zither immortal was a sure thing. It was the dream of all musical artists in the world. Although I don't specialize in musical Tao, having this kind of innate ability is better than not having it at all. Chu Kuangren murmured and then extracted the innate ability. He was already a musical Tao grandmaster, and now with the addition of the 7-string zither heart, he felt that his understanding of musical Tao had increased to another level. A flash of realization flashed across his eyes. Then he slowly reached out his hand and fiddled with the void for a bit. That moment, in the entire Heaven Luo City, the guqin in the hands of all the musical artists began to play automatically. Guqin music resounded throughout the city, shocking everyone. A musical artist looked at the guqin in front of him that was playing automatically and gulped. His face was full of shock. This is proving one's Tao with the guqin. Someone has proven his Tao with the guqin and has become a zither immortal. Other than the zither crown, the Azure Orchid immortal realm has another zither immortal. At that moment, the heavens and earth resonated. With Heaven Luo City as the center, a strong and mysterious zither Tao fluctuation spread out, hundreds of millions of miles away. In a mountain villa located by a lake, tens of thousands of guqin resonated, and waves of graceful guqin music flowed. In the mountain villa, countless musical artists looked at the guqin in their hands with a dull face, unable to believe what they saw in front of them. Ching at that moment, the sound of guqin music rang out from the depths of the mountain villa. The guqin music spread out, and wherever the guqin music went, it gradually calmed down. It's the Manor Lord. I can't believe that in this Azure Orchid immortal realm, besides the Manor Lord, someone else has become a zither immortal. In the depths of the mountain villa in a loft, a woman in a long white dress looked at the guqin in front of her and smiled. Someone has become a zither immortal after me. Hey, I'm not alone anymore. Just as the woman was rejoicing, a dusty guqin beside her suddenly made a sound and let out a guqin music. That scene made the woman's expression change drastically, and her beautiful eyes widened. The 9 Firmament Ring is playing. Chapter 974. Inside Heaven Luo City, Chu Kuangren put down his hands, and the guqin music in Heaven Luo City gradually stopped. All of this was because he had played in the void for a while, controlling thousands of zither and attaining the musical Tao origin. Chu Kuangren could now combine his emperor's essence with the musical Tao origin. With his 7-string zither heart and his own talent, it would not take long for him to become a musical immortal. However, he did not do so. Musical Dao, it's not my Dao after all. Chu Kuangren shook his head and smiled. In the restaurant, countless diners were discussing the sudden sound of the zither just now. Everyone felt that it was unimaginable. A musical immortal appeared in Heaven Luo City? That's unbelievable. I wonder which musical master managed to attain Dao. Apart from Qin Guan, there's another musical immortal in this world. At this moment, Chu Kuangren, who was the center of everyone's discussion, only smiled. He looked into the distance and murmured, "When I attained Dao earlier, there was an inexplicable resonance. That seems like a divine zither? Interesting. Let's go take a look then." Chu Kuangren decided on his next move. Jianguan, Lan Yu, and Little Fox came out of the room and came before Chu Kuangren. Little Fox said excitedly, Boss, did you see that just now? Someone in Heaven Luo City has become an immortal." Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. "Yes, I saw it. I wonder who it is. How could he be so powerful?" The little fox continued to blabber on. Beside him, Jianguan stared at Chu Kuangren with a bewildered look in his eyes. He could sense a surge of origin fluctuations from Chu Kuangren's body that only an immortal would have. He had sensed that same fluctuation from Qin Guan's body before. When he thought about the phenomenon just now, he suddenly had a bold guess. He looked at Chu Kuangren and said, "Master, did you trigger that phenomenon just now? Have you become an immortal?" Little Fox and Lan Yu were stunned when they heard this. Chu Kuangren had become an immortal? That fluctuation just now was indeed caused by me. But I have yet to become an immortal. Musical Dao is not the Dao I want to walk. Chu Kuangren said calmly. His little fox sucked in a breath of cold air. "Boss, you mean to say that you can become an immortal but you don't want to, right?" Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. The time has not come yet. The little fox and Sword Crown were stunned. This was the first time they had seen such a person. He could have become an immortal, but he did not just because the time was not right. That was an immortal. Countless cultivators spent their entire lives cultivating to become immortals. However, why was Chu Kuangren not moved at all? Was he still a cultivator? "What is young master's Dao?" Jianguan asked curiously. "I am my Dao," Chu Kuangren said indifferently. The path of self-improvement and invincibility. He himself was the Dao. This was his latest realization. But Jianguan was a little confused. He was the Dao? What kind of Dao was this? Unheard of. Jianguan shook his head and asked no more. If he continued asking, it would touch upon the very foundation of a cultivator. "Come on, it's time to leave," Chu Kuangren said. Then they left Heaven Luo City. On the way, Chu Kuangren had almost finished studying Lan Yu's Radiant Combat Immortal Physique, and mastered the Radiant Combat Origin Force. In addition to the Guqin Dao Origin Force, he had gained 2 more Origin Forces. However, that was not his biggest gain. Through studying the Radiant Combat Immortal Physique, he had grasped some of the rules of how a Daoist physique evolved into an immortal physique, and his understanding of the Book of Physiques had improved greatly. The Book of Physiques had given Chu Kuangren 2 abilities. The first was to analyze physiques and use other people's physiques for his own use. The second was to use his own physiques perfectly. However, through his own understanding, Chu Kuangren had gradually grasped the third function of the Book of Physiques, which was to upgrade one's physique. However, this kind of upgrade could not be done overnight. It needed to be done slowly. Chu Kuangren first chose the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart as a test subject to see if he could upgrade it to an immortal physique. As for the immortal physique, it was already very mysterious. To upgrade it, Chu Kuangren's understanding of the Book of Physiques was not enough. "Master, where are we going?" Jianguan asked along the way. He did not know why, but he felt that the path Chu Kuangren was taking was somewhat familiar. Some time ago, when I was using the Guqin Dao, I felt something resonating with me in that direction. I want to go and take a look. Chu Kuangren looked into the distance and said. Jianguan also looked in that direction thoughtfully. That direction? Isn't that the 9 Firmaments Huanpei Manor? The 9 Firmaments Huanpei Manor? That's where Guqin Guan lives. Chu Kuangren said in surprise. Yes, I heard that there's an ancient immortal Guqin in the 9 Firmaments Huanpei Manor. It's called the 9 Firmaments Huanpei, and it's also the origin of the manor's name. However, no one can play that Guqin, not even Guqin Guan himself. Could it be that the thing that resonated with you is this thing, master? Jingguan said in surprise. Chu Kuangren's interest was piqued. A Guqin that even the Zither deity can't play? That's interesting. It was indeed a immortal Guqin that resonated with him. If he was not mistaken, it was most likely the Nine Firmaments Huan Pei. As the group gradually approached the Nine Firmaments Huan Pei Manor, they gradually heard a lot of news about this place. Have you guys heard? Recently, Guqin Guan is holding a Nine Firmaments banquet to find a new owner for the legendary Nine Firmaments Huan Pei. What? Guqin Guan is willing to give this Guqin away? Many years ago, this Nine Firmaments banquet was held once, but no one could play that immortal Guqin. Over time, this immortal Guqin has been kept in the Nine Firmaments Huan Pei Manor. TSK, I don't know why, but this Guqin Guan is holding a Nine Firmaments banquet again. This time it's attracted many people, even those who don't practice Guqin Dao. After all, it's an immortal weapon. All kinds of discussions entered Chu Kuangren's ears. This made him look forward to this trip to the Nine Firmaments Huan Pei Manor even more. Speaking of which, I still have a token from the Guqin Guan's daughter, Xue Qinxin. A jade pendant appeared in Chu Kuangren's hand. Alright, since we're already here, let's pay her a visit. Not long after, He Lan Yu and a few others arrived at the Nine Firmaments Huan Pei Manor. The manor was huge and there were many pavilions. The manor was also divided into two areas. One was used to receive guests, and the other was the core area where the manor lord and his disciples resided. Dear guests, I'm really sorry, but the guest rooms in this manor are fully occupied. Please look for another place. At the entrance of the Nine Firmaments Huan Pei Manor, a disciple was apologizing to the few young celestial seeds. What? We came all the way here, and yet we don't even have a place to stay? Is this how the Nine Firmaments Huan Pei Manor treats its guests? I'm sorry. The disciple in the manor smiled apologetically. Due to the Nine Firmaments banquet, too many cultivators had come, and the guest rooms in the manor were fully occupied. Let's go. The few young celestial seeds said unhappily and wanted to leave. However, Chu Kuangren and the others happened to pass by them. Hello, we're here to visit your manor, Chu Kuangren said. Chapter 975. Hello, we're here to visit your manor. Chu Kuangren's words were heard by the few young celestial seeds who were about to leave. They all turned to look at him, but since his face was covered by a layer of spiritual light, they could not see his face clearly. However, that did not stop them from enjoying the show. If we don't stand a chance, then it's even worse for him. Brother, let's just find an inn. The few of them did not seem to have any ill intentions as they said that. The manor disciple smiled helplessly and said, My apologies, brother, but our manor is fully booked. Chu Kuangren took out the jade pendant that Xue Qinxin gave him and said, Brother, we're Lady Xue's friends. The manor disciple was stunned when he saw the jade pendant. He took it and studied it carefully, and his expression changed slightly. This jade pendant is indeed Lady Xue's personal jade pendant. Please follow me in, the manor disciple said. The few young celestial seeds were stunned. I didn't expect them to be friends of the Guqin Crown's daughter. Tisk, it's good to have a background. The few celestial seeds shook their heads helplessly and left. Meanwhile, in the Nine Firmament Ring Manor, in a garden, Xue Qinxin was having a gathering with a few young men. However, she did not seem to be interested, as if she was daydreaming. Beside her, a few young men were chatting in high spirits, pointing at the world. In my opinion, other than the 12 celestial seed rulers, Brother Yuanshu and Brother Qinfeng are on par with each other. That's right. Brother Yuanshu is a prince of the great Yuan God dynasty, and Brother Qinfeng is the disciple of the Guqin Crown. Below the celestial seed rulers, the two of them are the most respected among the celestial seed rulers. In fact, both of them even have the demeanor of a ruler. Among these people, two stood out the most. Of these two, one had a noble aura, and it was obvious that he was a person of high status. The other had a graceful and elegant demeanor. The surrounding celestial seeds were all flattering them. You flatter me, you flatter me. That's right. There's always someone better than you out there. We need to improve ourselves even more. Don't be spoiled and complacent. Although they said that, the two of them raised their eyebrows. It was obvious that they were enjoying the flattery. You two are too humble. So humble. We should learn from the two of you. Xue Qingxin yawned and casually said. No matter how powerful you two are, how would you compare to Chu Kuangren? As soon as he said that, everyone's faces stiffened. Chu Kuangren, of course, they had heard of this name that had recently risen in fame. Even they couldn't help but be amazed by it. Consecutively killing immortal seed kings? Defying the heavens and slaying immortals? Could an immortal seed really do that? Perhaps Chu Kuangren's abilities are just a rumor. It doesn't really matter. One of the immortal seeds let out a hollow laugh and said, Oh, false rumors. Could it be that everyone in the world is an idiot? Was the immortal slaying incident all fake? Xue Qingxin said lightly. Hearing this, the crowd was embarrassed. If Xue Qingxin was not the daughter of the Guqin crown, they would have driven her away. Why, junior sister Xue, you seem to admire Chu Kuangren so much. Do you know him? Qin Feng said with a smile, but his brows furrowed slightly. Although he looked like a gentleman to others, he was not as magnanimous as he looked on the surface. He was the disciple of the Guqin crown, and he had been coveting the daughter of the Guqin crown, Xue Qingxin, for a long time. Other than her looks, it was more because of her identity as the daughter of the Guqin crown. If he were to marry her, it was almost certain that he would inherit the 9 firmament ring ornament manor in the future. No, I was just saying, Xue Qingxin said. After all, the last time she ran away from home, her mother was already very unhappy about it. If she knew that she almost lost her life outside, she would probably not be able to step out of the manor ever again. Therefore, after she returned, she did not mention a word about the incident, and the people in the manor naturally did not know that she knew Chu Kuangren. Miss Qingxin, you must know that the people of this world are ignorant, and some things cannot be trusted. My brother is one of the 12 celestial seed rulers, so I am very familiar with the abilities of a celestial seed ruler. They are almost invincible under the immortal realm, let alone killing celestial kings. Yuan Su said calmly. Just like Qin Feng, he had feelings for Xue Qingxin. If he could become Dao companions with Xue Qingxin, with the help of the Zither crown, even if he couldn't ascend to the throne in the future, his status in the godly dynasty would be greatly improved, and he wouldn't become a sacrifice in the battle for the throne. Even if he did, he must have used some underhanded methods. Yuan Su thought for a while and then added. Hearing this, Xue Qingxin immediately felt uncomfortable. No matter what, he is not someone you can compare to. Miss Qingxin, you? Yuan Su's face darkened slightly, as if he was about to lose his temper, but he had to be careful about her identity. That moment, a disciple in the mountain manor found Xue Qingxin with a jade pendant in his hand. Junior sister Xue, your friend is here. Friend? Xue Qingxin could not help but be stunned. Then when she saw the jade pendant in the disciple's hand, her eyes lit up, and she said excitedly, Where is he now? I've arranged for them to wait in the inner hall. Xue Qingxin immediately left Yuan Su, Qin Feng, and the others behind. The few of them looked at each other when they saw that. What kind of friend is so important to you, junior sister? Qin Feng frowned and said, It's a man. The disciple answered honestly. Qin Feng and Yuan Su's eyes flashed coldly when they heard that. Oh, now that you mention it, I'm a little interested. I want to see what kind of friend he is. Let's go and have a look together. Although Qin Feng and Yuan Su were rivals in love, they would not allow others to fight for Xue Qingxin with them. When 2 tigers were fighting, how could they allow others to interfere? 9 Firmament Huanpei Manor Inner Hall. Chu Kuangren was sipping his tea when a beautiful figure arrived. It was Xue Qingxin. Brother Chu, you're here. Greetings, Miss Xue. Chu Kuangren smiled. I heard that the 9 Firmament Huanpei Manor is holding a 9 Heavens banquet, so I came here to watch. I remembered Miss Xue's invitation, so I decided to pay you a visit. I apologize for not informing you beforehand. Brother Chu, you're too kind. Xue Qingxin looked at Chu Kuangren with excitement in her eyes. Ever since he saved her last time, his figure had been lingering in her mind for some reason, and she couldn't get it out of her head. Now that Chu Kuangren had appeared at the 9 Firmament Huanpei Manor, she was extremely excited. She felt like she had a lot to say to him, but she did not know where to start, so she hesitated. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Miss Xue, may I know where Senior Guqingguan is now? I have a friend here who would like to meet her. The friend he was referring to was naturally Guqingguan. My honorable teacher is currently in closed-door meditation. She'll only come out when the Nine Heavens banquet begins. Even if she's not in closed-door meditation, it's difficult for disciples like us to meet her, let alone others. At that moment a voice was heard. Qin Feng, Yuan Su, and a few other immortal seeds walked in. The person who spoke was Qin Feng, and his meaning was clear. Not everyone could see the zither crown just because they wanted to. Chapter 976. You must be my junior sister's friend. My name is Qin Feng. Before my honorable teacher comes out of his closed-door meditation, I'm in charge of everything in the village. Qin Feng smiled faintly. He looked at Chu Kuangren and continued. May I know how you met my junior sister? This person was hostile towards him. Chu Kuangren noticed Qin Feng's strange behavior and smirked. Before he could say anything, Xue Qinxin, who was beside him, could not help but say, Senior brother, I don't think I need to tell you about Brother Chu. This is between me and Brother Chu. If she told Qin Feng that she was in danger, it would be the same as telling her mother about it. If that happened, she would definitely be reprimanded. Junior sister, you're still young and inexperienced. Humans can be sinister, so you have to be careful. I'm doing this for your own good, Qin Feng said. His words were just short of calling Chu Kuangren a bad person. Xue Qinxin was furious. Senior brother, what do you mean? I'm not a child anymore, you don't have to worry about me. Miss Qinxin, you should listen to your senior brother. Humans can be sinister, and this person is so secretive that he doesn't even want to show his face. There must be something fishy going on. Yuan Su sneered. Then, his figure flashed as he tried to grab the spiritual aura on Chu Kuangren's face. How dare you? Before Yuan Su could get close, Lan Yu, who was behind Chu Kuangren, had already attacked with a punch. Now that Lan Yu had obtained the inheritance of the winged human immortal, her cultivation level had already reached the level of a heavenly master. Coupled with her radiant combat immortal physique, she was no weaker than a celestial seed ruler. Yuan Su was only a celestial seed ruler. When the fist and palm collided, the void trembled and Yuan Su was forced back a few dozen feet. The surging palm chi also dispersed the spiritual aura on Lan Yu's face, revealing a cold, beautiful face. Everyone was stunned when they saw it. Xue Qinxin's eyes were filled with amazement, but she was also a little jealous. So Brother Chu has such a beautiful companion by his side. Yuan Su, who was sent flying by the punch, looked at Lan Yu in bewilderment. Although he was stunned by her beauty, he was even more shocked by her strength. After all, he was a celestial sea giant. Moreover, he was definitely at the very top among celestial sea giants. It wouldn't be wrong to say that he was only second to celestial seed kings. Despite that, Lan Yu still managed to push him back with a single move. Immortal seed giant? Could it be a king of immortal seeds? Realizing that the other party's strength was not to be underestimated, Yuan Su did not dare to offend him. He stood where he was and stopped attacking. On the other hand, Qin Feng was also shocked as he looked at Chu Kuangren solemnly. I still don't know your name, sir. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Is it a trend for you guys to attack first before asking for the other person's name? The mockery in his words was very obvious. As he spoke, the light on his face dissipated and a handsome face appeared, causing everyone to be dazed. He looked at Xue Qinxin and said, Lady Xue, I don't have much of a reputation, so I've been covering my face with spirit light. I forgot to remove the spirit light when I came to see you. I'm sorry. Xue Qinxin quickly shook her head. It's all right. In the crowd, one of the celestial seeds stared at Chu Kuangren as his pupils gradually trembled. He said, He's Chu Kuangren. Someone recognized Chu Kuangren. In an instant, the crowd was in an uproar. After all, Chu Kuangren's reputation in the immortal realm was like the sun in the sky. No one could compare to him. To most cultivators and even the celestial seeds, a person like Chu Kuangren was like an unreachable god. Yet now this god had appeared in front of them. Chu Kuangren, it's you. Yuan Su was also extremely shocked. Although he was belittling Chu Kuangren earlier, a person's reputation was like a tree's shadow. Chu Kuangren's high reputation was enough to prove that his strength was extraordinary. Yuan Su actually wanted to attack such a person just now? Oh God. Did he have a death wish just now? That's me. Do you have any doubts, sir? Chu Kuangren glanced at Yuan Su. Just one glance was enough to make Yuan Su shiver, as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. Horrifying. Yuan Su's body trembled, and he could not help but feel his legs turn into jelly. He then collapsed onto the ground with cold sweat on his forehead. He was so scared that he went limp. That scene shocked the other celestial seeds. F***ck me. That was just too horrifying. Just one glance was enough to scare a celestial seed overlord into such a state. They were on two completely different levels. Gulp. Qin Feng could not help but gulp as he said in shock. So it's Brother Chu. My apologies. He did not dare to show any hostility anymore. The person in front of him was a heaven-defying and immortal-slaying lord. He had offended the sacred city, the divine flame church, the Golden Hill Temple, and even the Wutong Mountain, a divine beast tribe. His actions were so crazy that it was unbelievable. Although the Nine Firmament Huan Manor had Guqin Guan as their leader, they were not as powerful as the few forces above them in terms of resources. In other words, if he dared to say anything that he should not, the other party might just kill him if he was unhappy. He had already offended a bunch of immortal-grade orthodoxies, so what if he offended the Nine Firmament Huan Manor? At that thought, he could not help but feel his legs turn to jelly. Just like Yuan Su, he almost fell to the ground. Brother Chu, let's ignore them. Since you've just arrived at the Nine Firmament Huan Manor, let me show you around. Shueqinxin said. Chu Kuangren nodded. Then I'll have to trouble you. After Chu Kuangren and the others left, Qin Feng, Yuan Su, and the others were still stunned on the spot for a long time. I can't believe it's someone like him. Yeah, I can't believe the heaven-defying and immortal-slaying Chu Kuangren would appear at the Nine Firmament Huan Manor. Do you guys think he's here to participate in the Nine Firmament Banquet too? If that's the case, then this Nine Firmament Banquet is going to be interesting. TSK. No wonder Lady Xue was so excited. It turns out that her friend is someone like Chu Kuangren. It's not that rare for her to fall in love with someone like him. Even I want to ride on someone like him. The few celestial seeds discussed among themselves. Meanwhile, Yuan Su, who was paralyzed on the ground, had already stood up. His face was a little gloomy. As a celestial seed leader of the great primordial god dynasty, how could he be so scared? However, when he thought of Chu Kuangren's gaze just now, he felt a chill down his spine. That person was too terrifying. I'm afraid even Big Brother is no match for this person. Rumor has it that this person has even killed celestial seed kings. I guess it's true. Yuan Su thought helplessly. If it were someone else, he might have thought of fighting. However, against Chu Kuangren, he did not even dare to think about it. Qin Feng, we've lost. Yuan Su took a deep breath and said. It was not worth it to go against Chu Kuangren just for Shueqinxin. No, I haven't lost yet. As long as I'm recognized by the celestial zither during the Nine Firmament Banquet, my honorable teacher will definitely betroth junior sister to me. This Nine Firmament Huan Manor will still be mine. Qin Feng's eyes were filled with determination. Chapter 977. Under Shueqinxin's arrangement, Chu Kuangren temporarily stayed in the Nine Firmament Ring Ornament Manor. With Shueqinxin's status as the Guqin Crown's daughter, it was a piece of cake for her to arrange a few more guest rooms for them. Zhou Huan Pei Manor in the guest room. Chu Kuangren sat cross-legged as he tried to derive his exquisite nine orifices sword heart. He wanted to upgrade his Taoist physique to the immortal physique level, and this process was almost over. Buzz! Chu Kuangren's body suddenly emitted an incomparably mysterious wave that spread in all directions. Beside him, the Kuan Wu sword was the first to sense this fluctuation. It couldn't help but tremble slightly and let out a crisp sword cry. Outside the house, Jianguan also fiercely opened his eyes. The green lotus immortal sword in his body trembled and had an impulse to fly out of his body. This feeling. Is it the Sword Dao immortal physique? Someone has awakened an immortal body related to Sword Dao. Who is it? This direction is. Sword Crown sensed the source of the fluctuation of the immortal body, and his expression suddenly became a little strange. It's young master. He realized that he could not see through Chu Kuangren anymore. Previously, He had used the zither to prove his Tao. Now there was a sword Tao immortal physique? What was going on? When I'm with the young master, there are always surprises. Jianguan shook his head and smiled. In the outside world, the exquisite 9 orifices sword hearts upgrade to an immortal body emitted a mysterious wave that enveloped the entire 9 heavens Huan Pei Manor. Inside the mountain village, the sword cultivators who had come to attend the feast of the 9th heaven sensed something. Their faces fell, and they couldn't believe what they were seeing. Someone awakened the sword Tao immortal physique. What kind of immortal physique is this? The mystic sword physique? Supreme sword bone? Or the indestructible sword immortal body? But these fluctuations don't seem like it. Within the mountain manor, the swords within every sword cultivator's body flew out uncontrollably towards Chu Kuangren's direction. After a while, in the sky above Chu Kuangren's room, countless long swords hovered in the air. Sword chi from the heavens and earth converged, as if they were welcoming the honorable 10,000 swords. This scene shocked countless sword cultivators. Not only Zhou Huan Pei Manor. Instead, with Zhou Huan Pei Manor as the center, all the swords within billions of miles sensed it and let out sword cries. It was as if they were paying respect to the birth of the King of Swords. The mighty figures of the Qinglan immortal world were also shocked by this strange phenomenon. This aura, a sword Tao immortal physique, has been born. Moreover, it's not an ordinary immortal physique. I'm afraid it's a high-level sword Tao immortal physique. 5th grade immortal physique. Common, profound, king, sovereign. To be able to cause such a phenomenon, it must be a king-grade immortal physique. In the entire history of the Qinglan immortal world, there have only been a few king-grade immortal physiques. That direction is the Zhou Huan Pei Manor. Strange, isn't that where a group of zither players stay? The mighty figures of the Qinglan immortal world were amazed. Among them, some tried to deduce the identity of the person who awakened the king-grade immortal physique. But no matter how these people tried to deduce it, they couldn't find anything. Some people refused to believe it and forcefully tried to deduce it. But in the end, they all suffered a backlash. It cannot be divined. Taboo. In one of the pavilions, a white-bearded old man looked in the direction of Zhou Huan Pei Manor with a pale face. How can there be such an anomaly? The past, the future, and even the present are all nothingness. Even the destined one in the prophecy doesn't have such a fate. Who is this person who awakened the immortal physique? Reincarnation of a mighty figure? Cosmic taboo? Innate deity? Countless thoughts flashed through the white-bearded old man's mind. In the end, he knew that this person was the biggest taboo in this world. Meanwhile, in Zhou Huan Pei Manor, Chu Kuangren, who had upgraded the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart to an immortal physique, smiled in satisfaction. He had also sensed the swords that flew in due to the fluctuations of the immortal physique. How eye-catching. Chu Kuangren curled his lips. He waved his sleeves. In an instant, the long swords flew out one after another. The sword cultivators who had been watching hurriedly rushed up and grabbed their swords one by one. Then, they looked at the house where Chu Kuangren was in shock. What kind of people are inside? The person who awakened the immortal physique must be in there. But who is this person? Is there such a person in Zhou Huan Pei Manor? Some cultivators could not hold back their curiosity. In a flash, they flew towards the house, wanting to find out what was going on. However, before he could get close, a surge of majestic emperor's chi swept out like a raging wave and blasted him away. Back off! A cold voice rang out. Suddenly, a huge domineering aura pressed down on everyone's chests, making it hard for them to breathe. Not daring to delay, everyone quickly left. Meanwhile, in the distance, a young man in a golden robe looked at where Chu Kuangren was with a strange look in his golden eyes. I can't believe someone among the humans has awakened the sword Tao immortal physique. What a surprise. It's not just the immortal physique. This person's strength is extraordinary as well. Even if he's not an immortal, he's at least a top-notch half-immortal. Beside the young man, a golden-haired old man said, "A top-notch half-immortal? There's nothing to fear." The young man shook his head. No matter what, we must get our hands on that Zhou Huan Pei. No matter what tricks this Guqin crown has up its sleeves, this will never change. Inside the room, Chu Kuangren took some time to adapt to the new abilities of the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart. This immortal physique could increase the power of his sword techniques, and it could also help him understand the sword Dao origin energy. It was somewhat useful to him. However, it was just a little. Chu Kuangren's current strength could no longer be greatly improved by just 1 or 2 immortal physiques. The Book of Physiques allows one to master many types of physiques, but too many physiques will only make things messy. Looks like I'll have to think of a way to solve this problem, Chu Kuangren murmured. Analyzing physiques, mastering them and upgrading them. Can I combine all of them together? Combine thousands of physiques and transform them into one. The more Chu Kuangren thought about it, the more he felt that this was the next direction for his research on the Book of Physiques. However, he only had one idea for now. He had not found a breakthrough yet, so this matter could not be rushed. I'll first upgrade the rest of the physiques to immortal physiques. Once they're upgraded, they'll help me master more origin energy, Chu Kuangren thought to himself. He set his goal on the chaotic physique. This was the number 1 physique among the firmament star's 3,000 physiques. And it was also his next goal to upgrade to an immortal physique. If there were no accidents, it would not be long before he could master the chaotic origin energy. Just as Chu Kuangren was upgrading his chaotic physique, the 9 Heavens banquet began as scheduled. Countless musicians gathered in the hall. Other than the musicians, there were also many powerful cultivators. They did not cultivate musical Dao, but they were still attracted by the Jiu Shao Huan Pei. One could see how tempting this immortal weapon was. Not to mention, the Jiu Shao Huan Pei was not an ordinary immortal weapon. Guqin Crown once said that the Jiu Shao Huan Pei was very likely to be a heavenly immortal weapon. In the Green Orchid immortal realm, earthly immortal weapons were rare, let alone heavenly immortal weapons. This was something that even immortals would be extremely tempted by. Chapter 978. The 9 Firmament Huan Pei is famous, but I've never had the chance to see it. Today I finally have the chance to see it. Not bad. I wonder what this legendary celestial Guqin looks like. I'm really looking forward to it. On an empty training ground in the 9 Firmament Huan Pei Manor, musicians and cultivators gathered to witness the legendary celestial weapon. The 9 Firmament Huan Pei shall be mine. At that moment an indifferent voice was heard. A middle-aged man in a white robe walked over with a Guqin on his back. His aura flowed with rich origin energy. Although he was not an immortal, he was not far from it. This person was already a top-notch half-immortal on the path of immortal ascension. The crowd gasped when they saw him. It's him, musician Tianyu. Rumor has it that this person has survived the 9 calamities, the fire calamity. His strength is second only to an immortal. Other than the Guqin Crown, this person is also one of the best in Guqin Dao. He really came to this 9 Firmament banquet. The crowd looked at the middle-aged man in white in surprise. At that moment, a celestial light flowed not far away, accompanied by a shocking sword intent. A man in a green robe slowly walked over. Some people's eyes narrowed when they saw this person. It's him, one of the Green Orchid dual swords, Duguyu of the Spirit Emperor Mountain, one of the 12 celestial seed kings. I can't believe even a celestial seed king would show up. The Green Orchid dual swords were the 2 most outstanding sword Dao celestial seeds among the younger generation of the Green Orchid immortal realm. Duguyu of the Spirit Emperor Mountain and Yi Feichen of the Dragonsong sword sect were both among the 12 celestial seed kings. Duguyu swept his gaze across the crowd and said, "A few days ago, someone here awakened the sword Dao celestial physique. I wonder who it was?" Hearing this, everyone came to a sudden realization. So it was because of the sword Dao celestial physique. Duguyu was a sword cultivator, so it made sense that he would be attracted here. However, Chu Kuangren had been living in seclusion for the past few days, so no one knew that he had awakened the sword Dao celestial physique. After asking a series of questions to no avail, Duguyu retreated to the side and did not say anything else. Apart from searching for the sword Dao immortal body, he also wanted to see this so-called immortal Zither 9 Heavens ring pendant. The heavenly moon Zither master and Duguyu showed up one after another, adding to the excitement of the feast of the 9 firmaments. Then, other famous Zither masters and cultivators arrived one after another. It's the prince of the great Yuan God dynasty, Yuan Su. He's one of the top immortal seeds. It's Fairy Qingyue. She's here too. She and Qin Feng, the disciple of the Zither Crown, are known as the dragons and phoenixes of the younger generation. There's also Shang Chanwan. She's also Qin Guan's disciple. It's said that her Tao of the Zither is unconventional, and she's known as the demonic Zither. Qin Guan doesn't like her, and she spends most of her time outside. Now she's back. In a loft not far away, Chu Kuangren could not help but yawn as he watched the young immortal seeds and musical Taoists appear one after another. When is this Zhou Xiaohuan Pei coming out? He came here for Zhou Xiaohuan Pei. As for the others, he didn't care at all. Mother will come out of seclusion today. At that time, fellow Chu will be able to see Zhou Xiaohuan Pei. But fellow Chu, do you also know how to play the zither? Xue Qinxin asked curiously. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. I know a thing or two. Upon hearing his words, Sword Crown and Little Fox were shocked. One could not help but roll her eyes, while the other's mouth twitched. Know a thing or two. You've already proven your Tao with the zither, yet you only know a thing or two. Xue Qinxin did not think too much about it. She really thought that Chu Kuangren only knew a thing or two. After all, who would have thought that a sword Tao immortal physique and a celestial seed with exceptional sword techniques could also prove his Tao with the zither? That's impossible, right? Roar. Just as Chu Kuangren was waiting for the Zhou Xiaohuan Pei to appear, a dragon's roar suddenly came from the sky. The sea of clouds rumbled as a golden dragon's silhouette soared through the clouds. Its terrifying domineering aura shocked everyone present. Chu Kuangren could not help but be attracted. Dragon Tribe. The golden divine dragon then transformed into a handsome man in a golden robe, attracting everyone's attention. The dragon tribe of the divine dragon island is here too. F***CKME, even a divine beast is here? The true dragon has 5 attributes. This dragon's entire body is golden, so it must be made of metal. Tiske. I've never heard of anyone on the dragon island who's an expert in musical Tao. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They stared at the golden divine dragon in shock. I'm Genie of the Dragon Island, and I'm here to claim the Zhou Xiaohuan Pei, Genie said. The crowd frowned. From what he said, it seemed like he was determined to get the Zhou Xiaohuan Pei. If they fought with him, would it mean that they would become enemies with the Dragon Island? At that thought, most of the people had already given up. The Dragon Island was definitely the most powerful force in the Green Orchid Immortal realm, and it originated from the Immortal Ancient Era. Compared to them, even immortal orthodoxies like the Divine Flame Church and Celestial Capital were slightly inferior. Going against them without a powerful background was simply asking for death. The Zhou Xiaohuan Pei belongs to the most capable. If the true dragon is recognized by the Zhou Xiaohuan Pei, it will naturally belong to you. A cold voice was heard. Then, a light purple guqin that was emanating an immortal glow descended from the sky and landed in front of the crowd. Its majestic aura swept across the area, causing many of the guqin artists and cultivators to be pushed back a few meters. A silhouette dashed out from the depths of the manor and arrived before the guqin. The newcomer was wearing a long white dress, simple and elegant. Even without any makeup, she was already as beautiful as a fairy, stunning everyone. This person was Qin Guan. The guqin before her was the reason why everyone was here. It was rumored that no one could play the ancient divine guqin. Zhou Xiaohuan Pei. This is the Zhou Xiaohuan Pei? It sure lives up to its name. What a dazzling divine guqin. Everyone looked at the Zhou Xiaohuan Pei with heated gazes. Genie's eyes were even brighter. With the wutong as the face and the purple robe as the base, it really is the legendary divine guqin, Zhou Xiaohuan Pei. Longzi, you have a good eye. However, to play this guqin it depends on your ability, Qin Guan said softly. With a wave of her sleeve, a stone table appeared and the Zhou Xiaohuan Pei was placed on the stone table. Then, lines of seals were spread out in the void, intersecting with each other like the strings of a guqin. Everyone, the Zhou Xiaohuan Pei is here. The 9 Heavens banquet has begun, but no one is allowed to touch this divine guqin. Those who wish to play the Zhou Xiaohuan Pei will have to pass through my seals first, Qin Guan said before retreating to the side. Not far away, Xue Qinxin walked up. Mother, you're finally out. Yes. Qin Guan smiled and nodded. Then, she looked at Chu Kuangren and the others who were walking behind her. and her eyes narrowed. Especially when she saw Qin Guan. She took a deep breath and said, Li Juoxin, you're finally back. Ha, old friend, long time no see. Jian Guan smiled faintly. Qin Guan then looked at Chu Kuangren, and her eyes lit up. If I'm not mistaken, this handsome young man here is Chu Kuangren. Greetings, Qin Guan. Chu Kuangren bowed. Qin Guan, you really followed him? Yes. Qin Guan nodded. Qin Guan looked at Chu Kuangren carefully. To have Qin Guan as your follower, you must have something special about you. I've been in closed-door meditation for the past few days, so I didn't have the chance to entertain you well. Qin Guan, you're too kind. We're very grateful for Lady Shue's hospitality for the past few days. Chu Kuangren smiled. The few of them exchanged some pleasantries. Then they set their sights on the Nine Heavens banquet. Chapter 979. Zhuxiao Banquet. Due to the restrictions set up by the Zither Crown, many Zither masters and cultivators were isolated and unable to get close. Only a few had the ability to break the restrictions and tried to play Zhuxiao Huanpei. Among them, Tianyu's movements were the fastest. In a flash, the origin of Zither surged around him and rushed into the restrictions. The restrictions couldn't stop him at all. Soon he was in front of Zhuxiao Huanpei. This Zither is mine. He was overjoyed and reached for the Zither. His fingers plucked the strings. But the next second his expression changed. The Zither didn't move and didn't make a sound. I don't believe it. How can there be a Zither that doesn't play? I must not have used enough strength. Tianyu's expression darkened. He channeled his origin energy into Zhuxiao Huanpei in an attempt to play it. But it was useless. No matter how much origin energy he channeled, Zhuxiao Huanpei still didn't move. How can this be? I am a top half immortal and my origin energy is second only to the Zither immortal. How can there be a Zither in this world that I can't play? This is impossible. Tianyu Zither Master said with an uncertain expression. Just then, a shocking sword intent exploded and tore open the restrictions. Duguyu, the king of holy seeds from Spirit King Mountain, arrived before Zhuxiao Huanpei. He didn't know much about Zither, but he wanted to try and see if he could play Zhuxiao Huanpei. If he succeeded, he would have made a fortune. He stepped forward expectantly and plucked the strings. But it was useless. Zhuxiao Huanpei still didn't move. I knew it. Duguyu shook his head and sighed. He ignored it and stepped aside. The rest of the famous Zither masters broke through the restriction and came before Zhuxiao Huanpei, but none of them could play the celestial Zither. This Zither is different. Normal methods can't play it, but it might work if I use my own understanding of the Zither. Qin Feng said. He placed his hand on Zhuxiao Huanpei and began to feel the mysterious power of the Zither. Everyone else's eyes lit up when they saw this. Not bad. Let's try with our understanding of the Zither. Maybe it really works. Everyone activated their own Guqin Wei source power, which contained their comprehension of the Guqin Wei, in an attempt to activate Zhuxiao Huanpei. However, no matter what they did, there was no effect at all. Zhuxiao Huanpei was not moved at all. Not far away. Qin Guan couldn't help but shake his head. If it's so easy to play Zhuxiao Huanpei, then it's too easy. She scanned the crowd with anticipation, but after a while she looked away in disappointment. Xue Qinxin asked curiously, Mother, what's wrong? Not long ago, someone in the Qinglan immortal world became a Zither immortal. That person's Zither Dao caused Zhuxiao Huanpei to resonate with him. This is also one of the reasons why I'm holding this banquet. I hope to attract that Zither immortal here. That person might be the owner of Zhuxiao Huanpei. Unfortunately, that person isn't here. Qin Guan shook his head and said. Upon hearing that, the little fox in sword crown could not help but look at Chu Kuangren. Others may not know, but how could they not know? The Zither immortal who resonated with Zhuxiao Huanpei was standing in front of them. However, Chu Kuangren did not make any moves, so they did not say anything. Sword Crown glanced at Qin Guan and found it funny. Oh my good friend. No matter how hard you think, you'll never know that the Zither immortal you speak of is right in front of you. He did not say it out loud. He wanted to see what kind of expression Qin Guan would have when he found out about this. At the Nine Heavens banquet, one by one, the Zither masters and cultivators tried to play Zhuxiao Huanpei, but none of them succeeded. At that moment a dragon roar was heard. Genie from the godly dragon island came before Zhou Xiaohuanpei and reached out to grab the strings. His origin energy surged violently, trying to play it by force. However, he was sent flying by a huge backlash. This divine zither really lives up to its name. However, this is the only way it's valuable. This zither is good enough as a betrothal gift. Genie laughed. The crowd was shocked when they heard that. Betrothal gift? What betrothal gift? However, before they could think too much, Genie reached out to grab Zhou Xiaohuanpei. He wanted to take it by force. The rest of the people's expressions changed. How dare you? Dragon son, how can you do this? The crowd tried to stop Genie from fighting for Zhou Xiaohuanpei. However, Genie's gaze froze and he said coldly, "This Zhou Xiaohuanpei, regardless of whether I can play it or not, I want it. Do you want to go against the godly dragon island?" As soon as he said that, everyone was speechless. Go against the godly dragon island? Unless they were tired of living. However, Zhou Xiaohuanpei was an extremely rare celestial artifact. They were reluctant to give it up just like that. Forget it. I can't play Zhou Xiaohuanpei anyway. There's no need to go against the godly dragon island for a useless celestial artifact. That's right. Just let it go. Some of the zither players sighed and could not help but stop. Even Qinfeng, the eldest disciple of Zhou Xiaohuanpei Manor, took a few steps back when he felt Genie's powerful aura. Although he was unwilling, he really did not have the courage to go against Genie. Putting aside the forces behind Genie's cultivation is comparable to a celestial seed king. He is not someone he can fight. There was only one woman left standing in front of Genie. It was a woman in a black dress and holding a black zither. This zither belongs to Zhou Xiaohuanpei Manor. Without the approval of the zither master or the manor master, no one else is allowed to take it. The woman said indifferently. She was another disciple of the zither crown, Shang Chanwan. Rumor had it that Shang Chanwan was not favored by the zither crown because of her unconventional zither Dao. However, ironically, only she dared to stand out and protect the reputation of Zhou Xiaohuanpei Manor. "Oh, you want to stop me? Do you have what it takes?" Genie sneered. As he raised his hand, violent dragon energy waves erupted, turning into a golden torrent that blasted out. Facing such a powerful attack, Shang Chanwan did not dare to be careless. She kept playing the black zither in her hand. Chaotic music burst out like demons dancing. Guqin waves blasted towards the golden torrent. However, the golden torrent broke through the Guqin waves and blasted towards Shang Chanwan. Shang Chanwan was sent flying hundreds of meters away. Genie raised his hand and a powerful dragon chi burst out again. It turned into a giant dragon claw and grabbed at Shang Chanwan. Oh no! Shang Chanwan's expression changed. Just as she was about to be killed, a melodious music suddenly sounded behind her and destroyed the giant dragon claw. This power! Zither Crown, you made a move. Dragon, you are at Zhou Xiaohuanpei Manor. Not only did you not follow the rules, you even tried to hurt my disciple. That's too much. Zither Crown walked over slowly and said, "I told you this Zhou Xiaohuanpei is mine." Behind him, a silhouette appeared and a powerful celestial aura swept across the area. Chapter 980. Behind Genie, a golden-haired elder appeared. A powerful celestial aura swept across the area. At once, everyone's expression changed. Qin Guan's eyes dimmed. Looks like Divine Dragon Island came prepared. Zhou Xiaohuanpei, we must get it. The golden-haired elder said. Let's see if Divine Dragon Island can take it from my hands. Qin Guan humphed. Zhou Xiaohuanpei was her beloved item. She could find a new owner for it, but she wouldn't allow others to take it by force. The Dragon Immortal and the Celestial's aura clashed. The terrifying pressure sent the Zither Masters and Cultivators flying. Oh my, the Jiu Xiao banquet has turned into an Immortal's battlefield. This is getting interesting. Qin Guan and the golden-haired elder disappeared and then clashed in the air, creating a loud explosion. A zither appeared in Qin Guan's hand. She plucked the strings with her fingers and music spread. The golden-haired dragon immortal grunted and waved her hands. Waves of terrifying dragon energy exploded and tore apart the music. The battle between immortals was extremely powerful. The pressure enveloped the area. On the other side, Genie saw that Qin Guan was being held up. He looked at Zhou Xiaohuan and continued to grab it. This time no one could stop him. But at this moment, zither strings condensed in the air and stopped him. This is Qin Guan's restriction? Humph, immortals are indeed powerful, but you set it up in a hurry. How powerful can it be? It's useless. Genie humphed. The dragon energy boiled and turned into a giant dragon claw. The immortal's restriction shook, but it did not break. Seeing this, Jin Yi's eyes narrowed. Oh, looks like I've underestimated you. Qin Guan, this is all you can do. He took out a golden long spear. The long spear glowed brightly. It was an immortal weapon. Break. Jin Yi stabbed with his spear. Under the immortal weapons buff, this strike was extremely powerful and slowly broke the restriction left by Qin Guan. Qin Feng, let's attack together and stop this person. Shang Chanwan told Qin Feng. But when Qin Feng heard this, he hesitated and said, don't make any more useless efforts. We are no match for him. Anyway, this Zhou Xiaohuan pendant is useless to us. Just give it to him. Hearing this, Shang Chanwan glared at him. Qin Feng, the Zhou Xiaohuan Pei is master's prized possession. Are you just going to watch it be taken away by someone else? How are you putting master's face like this? If you're not going to do it, I'll do it myself. Shang Chanwan attacked again. Seeing this, Genie scoffed coldly. A surge of dragon energy shot out and sent the other party flying once more. You overestimate yourself. Qin Feng shook his head and said. Upon seeing this, a few of the manor's disciples could not help but frown. Although Shang Chanwan was no match for Jin Yi, she was still a member of the Zhou Xiaohuan Pei manor. As the eldest disciple of the manor, not only did Qin Feng not help her, he even mocked her from the side. Was this really the eldest senior brother they knew? This was too disappointing. Bang bang, the seals left behind by the zither crown were all broken. Finally got it. Just as Jin Yi was about to touch the Zhou Xiaohuan Pei, the ancient celestial zither suddenly vibrated. And then a clang. The zither strings moved and a grand sound wave suddenly exploded. Jin Yi was the first to be hit and was sent flying. This scene caused everyone to be stunned. Even the zither crown and the golden-haired dragon immortal who were fighting in the sky could not help but stop and looked at the Zhou Xiaohuan Pei in shock. The celestial zither floated in the air, shining with celestial light. An overbearing celestial pressure spread out like waves. Zhou Xiaohuan Pei rang? Tianyu Zither Master's expression changed. Everyone was stunned by this sudden change. The ancient zither that had not sounded for many years actually sounded. What's going on? Why did it ring? No one played it just now. Who can tell me what happened? Look, that person. At that moment, someone in the crowd exclaimed. A white-robed young man walked out from the crowd and slowly walked towards the Zhou Xiaohuan Pei. This person was handsome and his body was surrounded by celestial light. Every move he made had an extraordinary aura. More importantly, there was a surge of Guqin Dao origin energy flowing around his body, and it was resonating with the Zhou Xiaohuan Pei. At that moment, everyone knew. The Zhou Xiaohuan Pei had sounded because of this person. It was as if this person was the zither master that the Zhou Xiaohuan Pei had been waiting for many years. It's him. Yuan Su, Qin Feng, and the others were shocked to see Chu Kuangren. Some people in the crowd recognized him too. It's Chu Kuangren. I can't believe he's here at the Nine Heavens banquet. What a powerful and mysterious Guqin Dao origin energy. This person is proficient in Guqin Dao. Not only that, but he can also resonate with the Zhou Xiaohuan Pei. The crowd was shocked. Zither Crown looked at Chu Kuangren in shock. Such Guqin Dao origin energy. It's the Zither Fairy from a few days ago. It's him. Xue Qinxin was a little confused too. Chu Kuangren had said that he knew a thing or two about the Guqin. She believed him, but who could tell her what was going on in front of her? What did he mean by knowing a thing or two? Step by step, Chu Kuangren walked towards the Zhou Xiaohuan Pei. The intense Guqin Dao origin energy that emanated from his body spread throughout the entire manor. It was as if all the Guqin at the scene were being controlled by an invisible giant hand, and they automatically played Guqin music. A million Guqin resonated. You want to get the Zhou Xiaohuan Pei? In your dreams. Genie snorted. He was determined to get the Zhou Xiaohuan Pei. He raised his arm and channeled his dragon chi into the immortal weapon in his hand before he launched a spear attack at Chu Kuangren. However, the golden-haired dragon fairy's expression changed. No! However, it was too late. Chu Kuangren focused his sword finger and casually swiped it in the air. 10 surges of origin energy from his body were infused into it, and it turned into a purple sword ray. Wherever the sword ray passed, a purple lotus bloomed. Amidst the explosion, the golden dragon chi was instantly shattered. Genie could not dodge in time and was instantly sliced in half by the sword ray. That sword attack completely shocked everyone at the scene. That genie was a dragon sage seed. His combat strength was comparable to a celestial seed king. Yet he was casually killed just like that. What kind of strength was that? Killing a celestial seed king so casually? So the rumors about this person are true. Yuan Su gulped and said. At the side, Qin Feng was already frightened to the point of speechlessness. There was a sense of helplessness in his heart. He could not compete with Genie in terms of strength, talent, and looks. Initially, he thought that if he could play the Jiu Shao Huan Pei, he might have a chance to compete with Genie for the Snow Zither heart. Now the Jiu Shao Huan Pei was playing the Jiu Shao Huan Pei. He was utterly defeated. It was a complete and utter defeat. Chu Kuangren slowly walked to the front of the Jiu Shao Huan Pei. His fingers caressed the body of the guqin, causing the guqin to vibrate gently and melodious guqin music to reverberate. Was it you who created the resonance to lure me here? Chu Kuangren murmured. The Jiu Shao Huan Pei vibrated gently as if it was responding. Very well. If that's the case, from today onwards, I shall be your master. Chu Kuangren said. Chapter 981. From today onwards, I will be your master. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. In an instant, the sound of Jiu Shao Huan Pei's zither suddenly resounded through the clouds, and the celestial splendor was dazzling, causing countless zither masters to be extremely envious. Jiu Shao Huan Pei is taken. It's Chu Kuangren. I can't believe he has become the owner of Jiu Shao Huan Pei. In the distance, a surge of intense killing intent suddenly erupted and locked onto Chu Kuangren. It was the golden-haired dragon sage. Chu Kuangren's expression was as gloomy as water. After taking a glance at Jin Yi's corpse on the ground, he said coldly, Chu Kuangren, you've killed the godly Dragon Island's dragon son. You're courting death. With that, his figure turned into a ray of golden light and flew towards Chu Kuangren. Waves of dragon chi erupted and shook the surrounding void. Everyone exclaimed. No matter how strong Chu Kuangren was, he would still be helpless against an immortal, especially one from the dragon clan, right? Could it be that Chu Kuangren, who had just become the owner of the Jiu Shao Huan Pei, was going to fall so soon? This zither master's life was too short. Then I'll use you to test the power of this zither. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. He pressed his 10 fingers on the strings. Due to the talent of the heart of the 7-string zither, he felt as if he had merged with Jiu Shao Huan Pei and entered an ethereal realm. Then he moved his 10 fingers. In an instant, the majestic sound of the zither shook the 9 heavens. The golden-haired dragon immortal's expression changed, and he retreated again and again. However, Chu Kuangren did not stop there. His 10 fingers continued to move as he pushed the Emperor technique, the 8 celestial demonic chords, which he had learned in the past, to its limit. Although it was only an Emperor technique, with Chu Kuangren's current strength and the support of the 9 firmament ring pendant, its power was still extremely domineering. Even the golden-haired dragon immortal had a solemn look on her face. Not only that, in the instant that he resonated with Jiu Shao Huan Pei, he felt that his understanding of the Zither Tao was rising rapidly. The Emperor technique, 8 celestial demon chords, was also constantly improving, gradually transforming into an immortal technique. Spiritual qi surged between heaven and earth, and the sound of the Tao and the Zither reverberated. A seal of proof condensed. Chu Kuangren had once again created his own immortal technique. The 8 celestial demonic chords had transformed into immortals. Everyone was speechless. The might of the 8 celestial demonic chords in Jiu Shao Huan Pei, which had become a celestial technique, had increased by several levels. Terrifying zither waves enveloped heaven and earth, shaking the entire universe. This part of the world fell silent. Only Chu Kuangren's guqin music echoed in the air. The sun, moon, mountains, and rivers seemed to have lost their light at this moment. In the eyes of the crowd there was only one person and one zither, stirring up the universe. 8 celestial and demonic chords. Grand melody desolate. Chu Kuangren soon reached the highest realm of the 8 celestial demonic chords. He plucked the strings with his fingers and suddenly released them. The world was silent. The zither was also silent. However, the silence contained the ultimate truth of the zither Tao, as well as the extremely terrifying and magnificent zither Tao source power that could shatter stars. The zither masters present were all stunned. Even Qin Guan's face was full of surprise. The soundless sound of the zither exploded, blasting towards the golden-haired dragon immortal. The terrifying might caused the golden-haired dragon immortal's pupils to contract uncontrollably. Next, thick waves of immortal elemental energy erupted from his body. Golden dragon shield. The golden dragon chi intertwined and turned into a golden shield. However, when the zither music struck, the terrifying power shattered the golden dragon shield, causing the golden-haired dragon immortal to spit out blood. This is bad. Retreat. The golden-haired dragon immortal's expression changed. His figure turned into a stream of light and flew into the distance. He was forced to flee from Chu Kuangren's attack. Everyone was dumbfounded. After all, that was a dragon immortal, and a dragon immortal at that. However, such a powerful being was still no match for Chu Kuangren. He was still forced to flee. More importantly, Chu Kuangren had not become an immortal yet. He was still just a fairy seed. Oh my god, I heard that this person can defy the heavens and kill immortals. I thought it was just an exaggeration, but it seems like it's true. Oh my god, this person's strength is too terrifying. He can even defy the heavens and kill immortals. Even a fairy seed cultivated by an immortal ancient orthodoxy would not have such strength. Is this person really just an outsider? The crowd discussed among themselves. They looked at Chu Kuangren as if they were looking at a monster. Meanwhile, Xue Qinxin, Shang Chanwan, and the other girls looked at Chu Kuangren with sparkling eyes. They could not help but fall in love with him. He had an extraordinary temperament, was handsome, and was even more powerful. There were not many girls who would not be attracted to a fairy seed like him. Lan Yu, who was watching from the side, could not help but shake his head. Indeed, the master's charm was irresistible no matter where he went. Unfortunately, the master's heart was set on reaching a higher cultivation realm. He had never been interested in things like beauty. Otherwise, the Firmament Empire would have so many women willing to give themselves to him. With just a word, he could easily have a harem of 3,000 beauties. This 9 firmaments ring pendant is quite powerful. Chu Kuangren smiled as he looked at the 9 firmaments ring pendant in his hand. The grade of this guqin was even higher than the 3-headed 6-armed resentful Buddha. Not only that, but Chu Kuangren used the spirit of omniscience, Xiao AI, to analyze the guqin and found that it was far more than just an ordinary immortal weapon. This guqin was one of the fragments of the ultimate origin treasure. That was what surprised Chu Kuangren the most. The ultimate origin treasure, as the name suggested, was a treasure that was born directly from the origin. It was much more advanced than ordinary immortal weapons. Even in the ancient and complete immortal realm, it was a rare treasure. Its value was no less than the complete Jade Lake immortal scripture. In fact, it was even more valuable. A fragment of the ultimate origin treasure. Interesting. I didn't expect to get such a reward. Chu Kuangren murmured. The value of the 9 firmaments ring pendant was much greater than he had imagined. What a great 8 celestial demonic chords. Qin Guan walked up and looked at Chu Kuangren with admiration in her eyes. The 9 firmaments ring pendant finally has an owner. She glanced at the 9 firmaments ring pendant. Her eyes were filled with reluctance, but she was also happy that the divine guqin had found an owner. Qin Guan, thank you for giving me this guqin. Chu Kuangren bowed slightly. All of this is because the 9 firmaments ring pendant chose you, and I'm just giving it to you. Qin Guan smiled. Then Qin Guan dismissed the crowd. Honorable teacher, are you all right? At that moment, Qin Feng walked up and asked with concern. However, Qin Guan glanced at him with an indifferent gaze. From now on, you shall resign from your position as the elder senior brother. She was not blind. At the critical moment, she could clearly see who was the one who could be entrusted with the heavy responsibility and the future of Zhou Shaohuan Pei Manor. Upon hearing that, Qin Feng's face turned pale. He knew. He was done for. Forget about marrying Xue Qinxin. His position in the Nine Firmaments ring pendant manor would also plummet. Yes. However, he did not dare to complain or disobey. Qin Guan was the master of the manor. Here, her words were the law and no one could defy it. Then Qin Guan looked at Shang Chanwan and her expression softened. Don't run around outside anymore. Qinxin is still not mature enough. I need someone to take care of the manor for me. Shang Chanwan was stunned. You're not against my Guqin anymore? I've never objected to your Guqin. It's just that your Guqin sword is unconventional. I'm afraid that you can't handle it, so I'm stricter with you. Now it seems that you're doing well in your cultivation, so come back. Yes, honorable teacher. Shang Chanwan was extremely excited. Chapter 982. Inside the Nine Firmaments Huan Pei Manor, Guqin Guan, Jianguan, Chu Kuangren, and the others were gathered together. They were talking about the Divine Dragon Island. This time, the dragon son of the Divine Dragon Island has died here. I don't think they will let this go easily. Brother Chu, you must be careful. Guqin Guan looked at Chu Kuangren and said. With Guqin Guan at the Nine Firmaments Huan Pei Manor, and the fact that the dragon son did not die in Guqin Guan's hands, she was not afraid that the Divine Dragon Island would fight her to the death. However, Chu Kuangren would not be let off so easily. Sword Burial Ocean, Divine Flame Church, Sage Capital, Golden Hill Temple and Wutong Mountain. These are enough to give me a headache, but now there's the Divine Dragon Island. Master, you're really good at stirring up trouble. Jianguan took a deep breath and said helplessly. Even at his peak, he would have a hard time dealing with these few forces. However, Chu Kuangren was just an immortal seed, and he was not even an immortal. He had almost offended all the immortal orthodoxies in the Qinglan immortal realm. Such behavior could only be described as insane. It's just killing a few immortal seeds. It's not a big deal. Chu Kuangren said calmly. He knew what he was doing. His current strength was comparable to an immortal. Together with Jianguan, unless these immortal orthodoxies joined forces and sent a few immortals to surround and kill him, he had nothing to fear with his current strength. Moreover, these immortal orthodoxies were fighting each other openly and secretly. If they wanted to join forces because of him and risk losing immortals to kill him without any common interests, that was basically impossible. Let's not talk about the other immortal orthodoxies for now. The only troublesome ones are the Divine Dragon Island and Wutong Mountain. No one knows how strong they are or how many immortals they have. The only ones who can go against them are the immortal ancient forces. The immortal ancient forces in the Qinglan immortal realm. Chu Kuangren pondered. By the way, why would the Divine Dragon Island have their eyes on the Nine Firmaments Huan Pei? Jianguan suddenly changed the topic. They want to use the Nine Firmaments Huan Pei as a betrothal gift. Jianguan Huan Pei said. Betrothal gift? Yes, the young master of the Divine Dragon Island's Golden Dragon bloodline wants to marry a Phoenix lady from Wutong Mountain. I heard that the current Phoenix Lord of Wutong Mountain is quite knowledgeable in the Tao of the Zither, and likes to collect the world's famous zither. Therefore, the Golden Dragon young master sent Genie to retrieve the Zhou Huan Pei as a betrothal gift. Qin Guan said. Hearing this, Jianguan frowned slightly. What's going on? Are the two divine beast clans going to unite by marriage? A marriage alliance between the divine beasts was no small matter. This would definitely cause a huge shock in the Qinglan immortal world, especially those demon clans. They would definitely not sit back and do nothing. Regarding the marriage, the two divine beast clans have not publicly expressed their opinions, but according to reliable sources, the opinions of the higher-ups of both sides are basically the same. Otherwise, Genie would not have come to me to retrieve the Zhou Huan Pei Qin. No wonder you want to host the Feast of the Nine Heavens. You were forced to do so by the two mythological beast clans, Jianguan said mockingly. No matter how strong Jianguan Guan was, it was still not enough to face the two mythological beast clans. However, she did not want to hand over the Zhou Huan Pei Qin just like that, so she decided to host the Feast of the Nine Heavens. It's not entirely forced. Some time ago, when the Zhou Huan Pei Qin was acting strangely, I thought it was a Zither immortal who had attained her Taoist Tao, so I wanted to use this opportunity to befriend her. I didn't expect that Zither immortal to be Brother Chu. Jiang Guanguan looked at Chu Kuangren and said. The few of them conversed for a while. Not long after, a sword ray suddenly flew in from outside the door. The sword ray then turned into a jade token and landed in Xue Qinxin's hand. Xue Qinxin was stunned when she saw the jade token. This is a notice from the academy. What? I'm going to participate in the assessment in half a year? Academy? The 100 Clan Academy? Chu Kuangren thought to himself. Yes. Miss Xue, are you still a student of the 100 Clan Academy? Yes, not only that. The academy has just informed me that I'll be participating in the assessment in half a year, Xue Qinxin said. The students of the 100 Clan Academy would hold an assessment every once in a while, and those who failed the assessment would be punished in various ways. The most severe cases could even result in expulsion from the academy. The 100 Clan Academy? Perhaps it's time for me to go there too. Chu Kuangren murmured. Going to the 100 Clan Academy was something that he had planned for a long time. The 100 Clan Academy was an immortal ancient orthodoxy that was on par with Mount Wutong and Dragon Island. Moreover, there were all sorts of ancient books and cultivation techniques in the academy. If he wanted to create his own origin, that knowledge might be helpful to him. Brother Chu, do you want to go to the 100 Clan Academy too? Xue Qinxin's eyes lit up when she heard Chu Kuangren's words. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. That's the thought. That's great. Let's go together, Xue Qinxin said with a hint of excitement. Beside her, Jingguan was deep in thought. The 100 Clan Academy is an immortal ancient orthodoxy. It's not any weaker than Mount Wutong or Dragon Island. If we can join it, the other immortal orthodoxies will have to think twice before making trouble for us. Obviously, he thought that Chu Kuangren wanted to go to the 100 Clan Academy to seek protection. Chu Kuangren did not explain much either. After staying at the 9 Firmament Huan Pei Manor for a few days, Xue Qinxin packed her things and prepared to go to the 100 Clan Academy to participate in the assessment. Chu Kuangren and the others were accompanying them as well. Along the way, Xue Qinxin would occasionally tell Chu Kuangren about the 100 Clan Library to supplement his knowledge of the academy. Among them, the ones that were often mentioned were the 12 teachers of the 100 academies. These 12 teachers were the 12 most famous gold medal lecturers of the 100 academies. Their cultivation was high and their knowledge was profound. For example, Mr. 12 of the academy was an expert in archery. With a bow in hand, even immortals had to be wary. There was also Mr. 10th from the academy. He was an expert in alchemy, and it was said that he had the experience of refining immortal pills. Mr. 9th was good at runes, while Mr. 8th was good at formations. These 12 gentlemen each have their own strengths, and the world takes delight in talking about them. And above these 12 misters was the dean of the 100 Clans Academy, one of the few people who stood at the peak of the Qinglan immortal realm. His cultivation level was even higher than 7 crowns. The 12 masters of the academy and the dean? Heh, I'm really looking forward to it, Chu Kuangren muttered. On a warship. In the room, a strange surge of origin energy erupted from Chu Kuangren's body. That was the chaotic origin energy. His chaotic physique had finally been upgraded to an immortal physique. This time he had learned his lesson and set up layers of restrictions around himself to isolate the immortal physique's fluctuations. With the help of this physique, he had successfully mastered the chaotic origin energy. Next target, the heavenly golden imperial physique. Chu Kuangren murmured. Since the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart and the chaotic physique had both successfully transformed, he had gradually become more adept at upgrading his physique. A month later, the heavenly golden imperial physique had been successfully upgraded. The heavenly golden origin energy had been mastered. Half a month later, the fallen darkness physique had been successfully upgraded. The darkness origin energy had been mastered. 10 days later, the infallible tormented physique had been successfully upgraded. The innate ferocious origin energy had been mastered. In the span of 3 months, Chu Kuangren had continuously upgraded 13 types of Taoist physiques and mastered 13 new types of origin energies. The Book of Physique is indeed extraordinary. Using the upgrade of my physique to master various origin energy is indeed the right choice. Even if I don't use any immortal weapons now, I can probably fight an immortal with just these origin energy alone, Chu Kuangren murmured. That was not all. Although he had not mastered all 3,000 Taoist physiques in the firmament star, he had analyzed nearly 100 of them. He could still continue to upgrade his physique and master the corresponding origin energy. Chapter 983. A warship was heading towards the 100 Academy. In the distance, a few figures were quickly chasing after the warship. These people were all wearing golden armor and cloaks, and there was a three-legged golden crow embroidered on their cloaks. They were the Honorable Demon Court's Golden Crow Guards. Is Chu Kuangren on that warship? Yes, if our intel is correct, Chu Kuangren is on it. The Honorable Demon Lord has ordered us to bring him back. This person is protected by Sword Crown, but we've already asked that person to help us. We cannot afford to fail this mission. The Golden Crow Guards communicated. Soon, the Golden Crow Guards arrived above the warship. They worked together to channel their demonic chi and block the warship in midair. Amidst the commotion, the warship shook. Xueqinxin, Lan Yu, and Sword Crown all looked at the Golden Crow Guards. Sword Crown had a strange look in his eyes. Oh, the Golden Crow Guards? Are they here for the Green Phoenix? Sword Crown thought to himself. Sword Crown, since you're here, it seems that Chu Kuangren is also on this warship. The Demon Lord has ordered for Brother Chu to go to the Demon Court. One of the Golden Crow Guards said. What if I refuse? An indifferent voice came from the warship. It was Chu Kuangren. Brother Chu, please don't make things difficult for us. The Golden Crow Guard frowned. Oh, from what you're saying, if I'm not willing, you're going to use force, right? That's what I was thinking. Sword Crown, send them away. Chu Kuangren chuckled. He had no intention of going to the Demon Court now. Perhaps he would go in the future, but not now. Sword Crown shook his head helplessly. Alright, now that we've offended the Honorable Demon Court, the demon race has been thoroughly offended by Master. Dragon Island, Wutong Mountain, 2 divine beast tribes. The Honorable Demon Court was the largest organization of the demon race. Almost half of the demon race's experts were gathered there. Enough to command 99% of the demon race. These 3 forces together were equivalent to the entire demon race in the Qinglan immortal realm. But now they had all been offended by Chu Kuangren. This was no different from offending the entire demon race. He did not think too much about it. Since he had chosen to follow Chu Kuangren, he would not regret it. He could only walk this path to the end. Just as he was about to make his move, an incomparably powerful saber intent suddenly came from afar. The saber intent was so cold that Jianguan's eyes darkened. Then he turned around and looked at the mountain peak in the distance. On the summit of the mountain, a middle-aged man stood proudly with a cold expression. A long saber with a white scabbard inlaid with precious jade hung from his waist. This person stood at the top of the mountain, and the wind and clouds around him seemed to be frozen by the peerlessly terrifying saber intent. Between heaven and earth, there seemed to be only one person and one saber left. Sword Crown's eyes were unprecedentedly serious. I didn't expect you to come. Dao Crown. Dao Guan, the master of the Sword Burial Sea, one of the 7 crowns. He was also the person who defeated Sword Crown back then. It could even be said that after defeating Sword Crown, Blade Crown seemed to be the leader of the 7 crowns. I heard that you made a comeback and even followed an immortal seed. At first I only thought that it was a joke, but now it seems that you have truly fallen to such a level. Following an immortal seed, are you even worthy of being one of the 7 champions? Dao Guan said indifferently. The long saber at his waist buzzed, and a terrifying saber intent wreaked havoc in the void. If a despicable and shameless guy like you can be one of the 7 champions, why can't I? Sword Crown chuckled. He was smiling, but his eyes were exceptionally cold. The sword intent on his body spread and collided with the surging saber intent, causing the void to tremble. Everyone felt that the surrounding saber intent and sword intent seemed to have materialized and collided with each other, almost tearing the void apart. How terrifying! Is this the strength of the peak swordsman? Fortunately, the Demon Lord had the foresight to ask us to invite Sword Crown. Otherwise, I'm afraid we won't be able to do anything to Sword Crown. A few Golden Crow Guards were speechless. Meanwhile, in the warship, Chu Kuangren had also sensed Sword Crown's presence. A battle between the sword and the saber? Sword Crown, go do what you have to do. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. Thank you, Master. Sword Crown nodded slightly. His figure flashed and dashed towards Sword Crown's direction. Their swords and sabers had yet to collide, but the saber intent and sword intent had already caused the surrounding wind and clouds to surge. It was as if sword marks and saber marks had been cut into the air. With a loud bang, the huge mountain beneath Sword Crown's feet collapsed due to the terrifying battle between the saber intent and sword intent, causing billowing smoke and dust to rise. "Looks like you've recovered. Is this the reason why you followed him?" Sword Crown said. He was naturally referring to Chu Kuangren. However, Sword Crown did not answer him directly. Instead, his eyes revealed a look of nostalgia as he asked in a complicated tone. "Is she doing well?" "Very well. She's the mistress of the Sword Burial Sea, second only to one and above all others, enjoying the glory of the world," Sword Crown said indifferently. "Heh, that's good." Sword Crown shook his head and smiled. Then the sword intent on his body increased again. The green lotus immortal sword flew out from his body, and green lotuses bloomed one after another in the void. Sword Crown held the immortal sword in his hand, and his sword intent soared into the sky. "I lost that battle many years ago, but today you and I shall fight again. I don't mind losing to you again." Sword Crown's eyes lit up. With a clang, the long saber at his waist was unsheathed. It was a saber that glowed with a green light, and its hilt looked like the mouth of a python. As the saber was unsheathed, the domineering sword intent became even more ferocious. One of the 3 famous sabers of the Sword Burial Sea, the green python. "Heh, this saber is still as ferocious as ever." Sword Crown chuckled. As soon as he said that, both of them disappeared on the spot. The next moment, a thunderous explosion erupted between the heavens and the earth. The saber and the sword collided, and the immortal core chi formed from the saber and sword swept across the heavens and the earth. The clouds rumbled, but they were separated by the saber and sword chi, forming a huge crack that stretched for millions of miles. At that moment, it was as if the sky had split open. Gulp! Xue Qingxin was so shocked that she gulped. Her mother was also one of the 7 crowns, but she had never seen such destructive power in front of her. It was her first time witnessing such a terrifying battle. "Is this a battle between top-notch immortals?" Xue Qingxin murmured. The battle between Sword Crown and Sword Crown was of course spectacular. However, the Golden Crow Guards were not there to watch the battle. Instead, they looked at the warship with a cold look in their eyes. "Brother Chu, don't blame us if you don't want to cooperate." A few Golden Crow Guards immediately attacked. Even the weakest of these Golden Crow Guards had the strength of a pseudo-immortal. With one attack, they broke through the warship's defensive chi barrier and charged towards Chu Kuangren. "How dare you all!" A cold snort was heard. A terrifying surge of Emperor's chi suddenly swept out from the room Chu Kuangren was in, blasting away the few Golden Crow Guards who were charging towards him. Some of the weaker ones even exploded into a mist of blood on the spot. A creak was heard. The room's door opened. Chu Kuangren, dressed in a white robe, slowly walked out. With a lift of his arm, the terrifying Emperor's chi combined with the origin energy transformed into a giant golden hand that grabbed a few Golden Crow Guards. With a slight squeeze, the Golden Crow Guards died on the spot.